Chapter 3585. Damn it! Looking at the empty sea around it, the fire dragon was flustered and exasperated. Don't do such pointless things again. Your only choice now is to do your best to defeat me. Qin Feiyong stepped into the sky with an imposing aura. Although he had been severely injured when fighting with the first prince of the dragons, he had taken the divine life pill immediately. Coupled with the healing power of the fire of life and bloodline power, his injuries were basically healed. Hearing this, the fire dragon turned around and stared at Qin Feiyong gloomily. If I defeat you, will you let me go? Of course, as long as you have the ability. Qin Feiyong nodded. Okay, then come at me. The fire dragon suddenly roared, and its body instantly expanded to more than 10,000 feet. It was like a majestic mountain range, and its dragon might filled the sky. Boom! A huge tail smashed the sky and slapped toward Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong punched out, and the power in his body surged out. In an instant, the fist and the huge tail collided, but it was Qin Feiyong who was sent flying. No way. The white-eyed wolf was stunned. What do you mean, no way? Don't forget, he has activated the power of the blood mark. Whether it's physical body, speed, or power, he is no weaker than old Qin. The madman pouted. Huh, you seem to know that we have broken the limits of our physical bodies? The white-eyed wolf looked at the madman in surprise. Nonsense, I came to White Crane Island before you. It's just that you didn't notice. The madman rolled his eyes. Came before us? The white-eyed wolf was slightly taken aback and asked suspiciously, then why did you hide in the sky without saying a word? I wanted to give you a surprise. The madman bared his teeth. Surprise? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. Bringing 8 Dominator divine weapons at once? Was the shock not enough? Although you've broken through the limits of your physical body, I'm telling you, don't underestimate this emperor. This emperor's strength is not something a small character like the first prince of the dragons can compare to. The fire dragon laughed wildly. With a flash, he disappeared before Qin Feiyong's eyes. His speed was so fast that it was almost impossible for the naked eye to catch him. The next moment, Qin Feiyong felt a great sense of crisis coming from behind him. Needless to say, the fire dragon was definitely behind him. Boom! Without any hesitation, he turned around and threw a punch, which collided with the fire dragon's dragon claw. The fire dragon's strength was truly terrifying. Qin Feiyong was once again sent flying, blood gushing out. I didn't expect the fire dragon to be so strong. Yeah, this is simply unexpected. The surrounding crowd was shocked beyond words. Qin Feiyong's physical body was comparable to a supreme-level heaven-defying divine weapon, but he couldn't defeat the fire dragon. Could it be that the fire dragon's physical body had broken through the next limit? Wait. Was there a limit above the supreme-level heaven-defying divine weapon? No. Look at the blood word mark between his eyebrows. His strength should be related to the blood word mark. Everyone was discussing. The battle between Qin Feiyong and the fire dragon became more and more intense. After repeated tests, Qin Feiyong discovered that the fire dragon's physical body and strength were indeed above his. The blood word mark was indeed terrifying. In fact, the fire dragon's strength had always been weak, just like the battle in the Nether King's Hell. If it wasn't for the blood word mark, the fire dragon wouldn't have been able to fight against him. However, the current him was no longer the same as before. Boom! The cause and effect law and the destruction law were both activated. It was as if 2 gods and demons had appeared in the world. Accompanied by a scream, the fire dragon's huge body was sent flying. Its dragon scales were shattered, and its body was covered in blood. Dragon blood dyed the sky red. His physical body and strength are indeed inferior, but in terms of the profound laws, old Qin has the absolute advantage. Frenzy laughed. It shouldn't be that simple. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. What do you mean? Frenzy was taken aback and looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf said, I don't know, but I have a feeling that the power of the blood word mark hasn't really erupted yet. When did you start to believe in intuition? Frenzy was speechless. Wasn't it old Qin's specialty to believe in intuition? Sometimes, You have to believe in intuition. The white-eyed wolf whispered, "You're really infuriating." The fire dragon roared and activated the destruction law's profound laws. A huge hand covered the sky and slammed toward Qin Feiyang's two profound laws. Qin Feiyang looked at the destruction god, and his gaze suddenly trembled. He looked at the center of the destruction god's eyebrows and discovered that there was also a blood character imprint. No way. Frenzy also noticed this scene, and his face was full of shock. It seems that my intuition has really appeared, the white-eyed wolf muttered. But this was too unbelievable. The blood word mark could actually be added to the profound laws? The profound laws were already very powerful. With the addition of the blood word mark, wouldn't it be invincible? As expected, along with a loud explosion, Qin Feiyang's two great ultimates were shattered in the void, and he spat out a mouthful of old blood. How is this possible? Qin Feiyang's eyes were also filled with disbelief. With the addition of the blood word mark, the destruction god's lethality had far surpassed the profound laws. This is the strength of this emperor. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Wrong. I'm afraid of your sovereign divine weapon. As long as you don't use your sovereign divine weapon, I can kill you as easily as stepping on an ant. The fire dragon laughed maniacally. The destruction god stomped toward Qin Feiyang. The terrifying power caused the void to collapse and turn into chaos. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. He used the space-time step and retreated like lightning. But the fire dragon seemed to have expected Qin Feiyang to do this. With a flash, he appeared above Qin Feiyang and smashed his tail down. Dong! Qin Feiyang's entire body fell into the sea below like a blood-stained meteor, causing huge waves. So powerful? Old Qin is completely at a disadvantage. The mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but frown. If this situation continued, Qin Feiyang would really have to activate his slaughter domain or use his sovereign divine weapon to fight. So the real enemy is him. Elder Hua and the others finally understood. Compared to the first prince of the dragon clan, this fire dragon was much stronger. In the past, people like Elder Hua had heard a lot about the fire dragon from Qin Feiyang and the others. But in their opinion, no matter how strong the fire dragon was, he couldn't be Qin Feiyang's match. They didn't expect him to be this strong. This was the first time they had seen the fire dragon in action. They were deeply shocked by the fire dragon's strength. Without the slaughter domain or the sovereign divine weapon, what are you? You're nothing. The fire dragon looked down at the sea below and laughed. What are you if you don't have the blood word mark? The mad scientist said unhappily. That's right. Before the battle, we didn't say that we weren't allowed to activate the slaughter domain or use the sovereign divine weapon. But now, little Qinzi has voluntarily given up on these methods. Instead of thanking him, you're still so arrogant. May I ask, who gave you the courage? How can you be so thick-skinned? The white-eyed wolf also had a look of disdain. What a joke. Did I say not to activate the slaughter domain? He was the one who was arrogant and didn't want to activate the slaughter domain. Now, he's mocking me? Who's the thick-skinned one here? The fire dragon sneered. The white-eyed wolf's mouth twitched. He shook his head and said, I'm ashamed of my inferiority to your shamelessness. I'm also very impressed. The mad scientist was also speechless. After being in the martial world for so many years, what kind of person hadn't he seen? But no one could compare to the fire dragon's shamelessness. Splash! A huge wave rose, and Qin Feiyang broke through it. A cold light flashed in the fire dragon's eyes. The destruction god, who was standing in the sky above the sea, immediately slapped out. Very strong indeed. But that's all. Qin Feiyang said indifferently and activated his 3,000 incarnations. He finally activated the 3,000 incarnations. It seems that the fire dragon is indeed much stronger than the first prince. The demon hall master muttered. Of course. With the fire dragon's strength, he can instantly kill us, Chu Yun said with a serious expression. Chu Yun said with a serious expression. This was the first time she had seen such a terrifying existence. It's been a long time. The fire dragon scanned the 3,000 incarnations, and scenes of the past appeared in his mind. But then, His eyes were filled with disdain as he roared, 3,000 incarnations are useless. You dare to look down on us? Beat it. The 3,000 incarnations were furious and activated their two supreme, profound meanings. 1,000 of them charged toward the destruction god. The other 2,000 charged toward the fire dragon. Fuck. These are the 3,000 incarnations that the first prince of the dragons has been talking about. What the hell is this? They actually have independent consciousness and can activate their supreme, profound meanings. Hua Zihui was dumbfounded when he saw this. No wonder it was called Qin Feiyang's strongest trump card. Just think about it. A single Qin Feiyang was already so terrifying, let alone 3,000 Qin Feiyangs. They were simply existences akin to gods and devils. Rumble. The 1,000 incarnations charging toward the destruction god were like moths to a flame, constantly shattering and disappearing. But the 2,000 incarnations charging toward the fire dragon were unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon was covered in blood. Not a single part of his body was intact. Roar. Accompanied by a painful howl, his two dragon claws shattered, and his dragon tail was torn apart by dozens of incarnations. Several bloody holes appeared on his huge body, and dragon blood spurted out like a waterfall. Do you still dare to look down on us? You really don't know what's good for you. Brothers, tear it into pieces. Later, let me stew it in oil and stir-fry it to go with wine. The 2,000 incarnations charged forward like a pack of hungry wolves, using all kinds of supreme, profound meanings and heaven-defying techniques. Facing such a situation, even if the fire dragon had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to handle it. The outcome would be so miserable that no one could bear to look at it. Chapter 3586. Damn, he's too strong. Sister, work harder and make him my brother-in-law. Pyrotechnic Glow clenched his fists, his eyes filled with admiration. Obviously, Qin Feiyang had successfully gained another little fan. Stop talking nonsense. Princess Wolfing's veins popped out on her forehead when she heard this. How old are you? Why are you still so frivolous every day? It's true. I like him a lot. If I were a woman, I would definitely marry him. Pyrotechnic Glow chuckled. Princess Wolfing couldn't help but give this boastful brother a knock on his head. She then raised her head and looked at the battlefield. Needless to say, this human man really has a fascinating charm. 3,000 incarnations crazily attacked the fire dragon. Qin Feiyang himself was like an outsider. After taking a divine life pill, he stood on the sea and watched the show. You've gone too far. You've gone too far. Die. All of you. Forbidden art. Heaven's annihilation. Long roared furiously. The blood character mark on its forehead actually separated and erupted with a wave of fire that could burn the heavens and destroy the world. The 2,000 clones didn't even have time to cry out before they were annihilated. Not only that, even the sky and void were melting. Forbidden technique. The madman and the white-eyed wolf's eyes trembled, because at this moment, even they felt a strand of lethal danger. The young man's eyes flashed slightly and whispered, "This forbidden technique is a super forbidden technique. Qin Feiyang isn't its opponent." What? The snow python was shocked. If even the young man said so, one could imagine how terrifying this forbidden technique was. Qin Feiyang, even if you activate the slaughter zone, it's too late. Go to hell. The fire dragon laughed sinisterly. The waves of fire formed by the blood-written imprint suddenly turned into a torrent, rolling towards Qin Feiyang. On the battlefield, Qin Feiyang could clearly feel just how terrifying this wave of fire was. The young man wasn't exaggerating at all. This taboo technique was more than enough to instantly kill him. He never expected that the fire dragon would have such a terrifying trump card hidden up his sleeve. The heavens had fallen. This was an attempt to annihilate everything in the world. However, although he was facing a fatal crisis, Qin Feiyang did not panic at all. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Finally, it stopped at the Eye of Heaven. Since it was a forbidden technique, the Eye of Heaven should be able to replicate it. Without hesitation, the purple gold dragon soul roared and activated the Eye of Heaven. You want to replicate a forbidden technique? The fire dragon laughed without restraint. Copy. Qin Feiyong turned a deaf ear to him. With a loud roar, the intertwining black and white divine light surged toward the wave of fire like a tide. The next moment, above the purple-gold dragon soul, a wave of fire appeared, exuding the power of destruction. What? The fire dragon's laughter stopped abruptly, and his eyes almost popped out. Looks like you don't know much about the Eye of Heaven. Apart from divine artifacts and the like, it can replicate all kinds of attacks. Qin Feiyong's eyes turned cold. With a wave of his hand, the wave of fire surged out and rushed toward the wave of fire above. In fact, he was also quite surprised. Because the Eye of Heaven had evolved, he didn't know the details. In other words, he didn't know whether it could be replicated or not. But fortunately, the Eye of Heaven was still as heaven-defying as before. The two forbidden techniques collided with a loud bang. Heaven and earth roared, and the sky collapsed as if it was the end of the world. Impossible. No matter how heaven-defying the Eye of Heaven is, there should be a limit. This is a forbidden technique. It's known as the strongest forbidden technique. How can it be replicated? Looking at this scene, Fire Dragon seemed to have gone mad. As the two taboo techniques were destroyed, Qin Feiyong raised his head to look at Hualong's glabella. To his surprise, he discovered that the blood character mark on Hualong's glabella no longer existed. In other words, this taboo technique consumes the entire blood imprint as the price? No wonder the fire dragon hadn't activated this forbidden technique before. It turned out that as long as this forbidden technique was activated, the blood mark would completely disappear. Once the blood mark disappeared, it would lose the power of the mark and become an ordinary divine dragon. The outcome has been decided. Long Chun shook his head and smiled. Although the forbidden technique was powerful, the Eye of Heaven was even more heaven-defying. If the fire dragon had challenged Qin Feiyong before the first prince, then Qin Feiyong would have died without a doubt. Because if the Eye of Heaven hadn't evolved, Qin Feiyong wouldn't be able to block this forbidden technique without activating the slaughter domain or using the sovereign divine weapon. Unfortunately, the fire dragon chose to fight after the evolution of the Eye of Heaven. However, this Eye of Heaven was indeed ridiculously strong. It was fine if it could copy a supreme profound, but it could also copy a super forbidden technique. The present Qin Feiyong was already in an invincible position in the Sky Cloud realm as long as the super powerhouses of the 4 forbidden zones did not come out. Let's end our feud here. Qin Feiyong took a step forward. 2 great profound meanings appeared, and he charged into the sky. You want to end it? Impossible. This emperor hasn't lost yet, and I won't lose. The fire dragon roared hysterically. The law of lightning and the law of destruction surged out, attacking Qin Feiyong's 2 supreme profundities. But was it useful? How could the thunder laws compare to the supreme law? With a loud bang, the 2 supreme profound shattered. Without the support of the blood mark, they seemed vulnerable. Following closely, the 2 supreme profound, karma laws and destruction laws, fiercely bombarded the fire dragon's body. Roar. With a painful howl, the fire dragon's huge body was torn apart. Don't kill me. The fire dragon's soul suddenly left its body, and its divine soul hurriedly begged in the void. No matter how arrogant a person was, they were afraid of death. The fire dragon was no exception. In the face of death, it didn't hesitate to put down its so-called self-esteem. But it never thought that with the grudges it had accumulated with Qin Feiyong over the years, would Qin Feiyong let it go? Throughout the whole process, Qin Feiyong didn't show the slightest bit of sympathy or pity. The big hand burst out, and the power of 6 laws intertwined, exuding an aura that could destroy heaven and earth, and slapped the fire dragon's divine soul. No, I beg you. However, he just opened his mouth when Qin Feiyong's palm descended, and Hualong's soul was instantly obliterated in space. Only a miserable cry of despair remained, and it reverberated in the heavens and the earth for a long time. Damn, this guy is too strong now, the white-eyed wolf muttered. He is strong. Madman nodded and laughed. But I'm not bad either. If we really fight, you're not his opponent, okay? The white-eyed wolf rolled its eyes at Madman, then pondered for a while and laughed. But when this brother breaks through to the perfection sovereign realm, then the two of us can join forces and kill him? Who's joining forces with you? So low class. Madman rolled his eyes. Look at how arrogant you are. If this brother breaks through to the perfection sovereign realm, I'll directly crush you and little Chin-zi. The two of you are just small fries. The white-eyed wolf's face was full of disdain. Madman's face turned black, too lazy to bicker with it. He looked at Long Chun, who was sitting there. Even if the fire dragon died in the hands of Qin Feiyang, Long Chun didn't show any regret or anger. This isn't right. He's too calm. Could it be? Suddenly, Madman's eyes trembled as he landed in front of Qin Feiyang and asked, could it be that the fire dragon also left his divine soul in the dragon nest? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback as he turned to look at Madman. Then the two of them looked at Long Chen. No need to doubt. If he really left his divine soul in the dragon nest, he wouldn't be fighting with you guys like this. Long Chun smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. Long Chun wouldn't lie to them. Moreover, for Long Chun, the fire dragon was just a small character. After all, the two sovereigns were even willing to give the ice dragon sacred sword and celestial dragon godsword to the blood hall. In other words, he had the capital to be willful. Who told him to have such a powerful father? Outside, the second princess of the dragons looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf in horror, then looked at the third prince and the others and said in a deep voice, we can't stay outside any longer. Return to the dragon nest immediately. Yes. The other princes and princesses also nodded. The current Qin Feiyang was too strong, especially Madman. This was especially true for Madman. 8 sovereign divine weapons were enough to make any force tremble in fear. If they continued to stay outside, they would be digging their own graves. Decisive. The group of princes and princesses let their respective sovereign divine weapons take them and their followers and disappeared at the end of the sea without looking back. Seeing this, Bing Runing and the others didn't dare to stay for a moment and ran away with their tails between their legs. Even the little princess of the dragons didn't stay, because she also knew that the moment the first prince of the dragons died, her cooperation with Qin Feiyang had already ended. If she didn't leave, Qin Feiyang and the others would definitely not show mercy to her. Damn, they ran so fast? Madman was planning to deal with these people, but he didn't expect them to disappear without a trace in the blink of an eye. They're not stupid. I'm guessing that he already had the intention to retreat the moment you appeared. The reason they waited until now is purely to see if the fire dragon has the ability to kill me. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, but he didn't chase after them. Because the sovereign divine weapons took them away, it was impossible to catch up. This time, he was already very satisfied to obtain the Eye of Heaven and kill his mortal enemy, the fire dragon. Long Chun saw everything and put down his teacup. He stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Brother Qin, thank you for letting me enjoy such a wonderful performance today. You're not going to fight with us? Madman looked at Long Chun in surprise. Long Chun laughed. The future is long. There will be a chance in the future. But what if I don't let you go? Madman chuckled. Long Chun laughed and said indifferently, that depends on whether you can make me stay or not. Madman narrowed his eyes and the aura of the power of laws spread out from his body. What's going on? Aren't they old friends? But why does it look like they're going to go all out? The onlookers who were watching from the outside all revealed looks of bewilderment. Chapter 3587. For a time, the atmosphere here became solemn. In fact, everyone didn't know that the reason why Qin Feiyang and Madman treated Long Chun as an old friend was because they felt that this person was not bad. Compared to the other dragons, Long Chun's character was indeed worthy of respect. For example, in the ancient world, humans were like ants in the eyes of the dragons. Only Long Chun respected humans. He even scolded Long Zun because of this. For humans to respect dragons, the dragons must first respect humans. To rule a region, one didn't rely on force, but kindness and kindness. But at that time, not only did Long Zun not listen, he even scolded him, saying that being soft-hearted would make it difficult for one to achieve great things. To be honest, If Long Zun listened to Long Qin at that time, perhaps the dragons of the ancient world wouldn't have been exterminated that year. Because Long Zun and Long Qin's philosophy and character were incompatible, they had once doubted whether Long Chun was Long Zun's biological son. Therefore, although they were opponents, whether it was back then or now, Qin Feiyang and the others had always had a good impression of Long Qin. The tense atmosphere caused the scene to fall into a dead silence. Boom. Splash. Suddenly, the sea below erupted with a powerful aura, and the waves rose thousands of feet high. Qin Feiyang and the others were startled and hurriedly looked down at the sea below. This is the aura of the law of death. Madman scanned the sea, his face full of doubts. What's going on? Why would the aura of the law of death suddenly erupt from the sea? The aura of the law became more and more terrifying, and the aura of death shrouded all directions. Gradually, in addition to the aura of the law, there was also a dragon aura that erupted. This is Qin Feiyang, Madman, and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other. They couldn't be more familiar with this aura. It was the crown prince of the dragons. This person didn't die? Boom. Suddenly, above the sea, a dark red waning moon slowly rose, and the world here instantly turned dark red, like azura purgatory. This is a paramount profundity of the law of death, dusk of the gods. Qin Feiyang and the others felt their hearts tremble. Not only did the first prince of the dragons not die, but he had also comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of death. Asterisk crash. Asterisk very soon. Amidst the surging waves, an aged figure slowly emerged. Who else could it be but the first prince of the dragons? Because he had consumed too much of his life force to activate the golden dragon domain, he looked extremely old. His eyes were closed and his breathing was even, as if he was in a deep sleep. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. Madman shook his head. A person who was bound to die actually managed to comprehend a supreme Tao at the crucial moment. Not only did he save his life, but his strength also soared. Ding! With a deafening dragon roar, the first prince of the dragon clan revealed his true form. It was a 5-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of feet long. The essence chi of this sea rushed into his body like a tide, and the life force he had consumed was quickly restored. Right at this moment, Long Chun waved his hand and thousands of divine life pills appeared. They were all in the shape of 10 dragons, and they turned into a majestic life force that surged into the first prince's body. In an instant, the first prince of the dragons recovered more than half of his life force. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf's eyes turned cold as he looked at Madman and Qin Feiyang, and said with a bone-piercing killing intent, "We have to remove the roots when cutting the grass. Kill him." The Madman and Qin Feiyang looked at each other with killing intent in their eyes. Shua. But suddenly, Long Chun stepped in front of the two. "What are you doing?" Madman raised his eyebrows. Long Chun smiled faintly and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Give me face and let him go this time." Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect that Long Chun would put down his status and beg for mercy for the first prince of the dragons. "Give you face? On what basis?" Madman sneered. Long Chun looked at Madman and smiled. "Back then, I saved Brother Qin and the white-eyed wolf in the heavy domain. This should be considered a favor. So now, you want to use this favor to save his life?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. Long Chun nodded. The white-eyed wolf said, "You have to think about it. A favor from us is very hard to come by." "I've already thought about it." Long Chun smiled faintly. The white-eyed wolf frowned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked up at Long Chun. He nodded and said, "It's good that we don't owe each other anything. We'll do as you say." "Thank you." Long Chun cupped his hands and thanked him. He stepped in front of the first prince of the dragons and opened his god's domain. A space-time crack also appeared. Immediately after, he took the first prince of the dragons and disappeared from the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others without looking back. What the hell is this? Madman was dumbfounded. One has to know that after the castle and the other sovereign weapons sealed this area, they couldn't open a transmission channel. However, Long Chun could ignore this rule. "God's domain," Qin Feiyang said. God's domain? Madman was stunned. Of course, he knew about God's domain. This was Long Chin's talent. But was God's domain so heaven-defying? The current God's domain is no longer what it used to be. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. It's no longer what it used to be? Madman frowned and asked, It has evolved? Yes. This God's domain is heaven-defying now. It can even ignore the rules of the forbidden area. Qin Feiyong nodded. So powerful? Madman was stunned, as expected of their old rival. To be honest, I don't have the confidence to keep him here. After all, who knows how many tricks he has hidden? Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. How could the son of the ice dragon have an undeserved reputation? Madman was speechless. In fact, he didn't really want to fight with Long Chin. He just wanted to show his attitude. No matter whose son you are, if you annoy me, I'll deal with you. Qin Feiyong turned to the youth and asked curiously, Little brother, where have you been fooling around all these years? Cough, cough. The youth coughed and said speechlessly, What do you mean fooling around? Do you think I'm one of those good-for-nothing playboys? Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. Of course you're different from those playboys. How about it? Why don't you stay in the Black Tortoise world? We can take care of each other. Forget it. You've been having trouble every day. I don't want to follow you and be tired every day. Isn't it nice to be alone? The youth pouted. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. Was it really okay to be so direct? All right, take care. As the youth's voice fell, the snow python soared into the sky and became several hundred feet long. The youth took a step forward and landed on the snow python's back. Suddenly, the youth thought of something and looked down at Qin Feiyong. You haven't been to the northern continent yet, right? No. Qin Feiyong shook his head and asked suspiciously, Why do you ask? Go and take a look when you have time. After the young man said that, the man and the python quickly disappeared without a trace. What do you mean? The madman and the ingrate retracted their gazes and looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. How would I know? Qin Feiyong shrugged and said, Since he wants us to go to the northern continent, there should be a reason. Let's take a look when you have time. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf nodded. Although they didn't know where this youth came from their previous contact, it was unlikely that he would harm them. The battle finally came to an end. The ancient castle, the horsetail whisk, and the Grim Reaper's sword flew through the air. The ancient castle directly entered the Black Tortoise realm, while the horsetail whisk and the Grim Reaper's sword disappeared into Qin Feiyong's body. The Fire Phoenix sword and Fire Phoenix Divine Jade also returned to Princess Wuffing's side. Idol, you are so awesome. Do you still need a little follower? Wash clothes, cook, serve tea. I can do everything. I can even warm your bed. As long as you don't mind that I'm a man. After the sovereign divine weapons were unlocked, the onlookers immediately swarmed forward. They surrounded Qin Feiyong so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Looking at these unfamiliar faces in front of him, Qin Feiyong was very moved, because these people had always supported him. Even when facing giants like the dragons and the Feng people, they didn't hesitate and chose to stand by his side. But what bed warming? He really didn't like it. Brother Qin, are those two groups of people really the dragons and the Feng people? Someone asked curiously.
Yes.
Haven't you always wanted to know what the core area of the Een Demon Land and the Heavy Domain Land is? Now I'll tell you. The dragons and the Feng people live in the core area of these two forbidden areas. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. So that's how it is. I really didn't expect that there were two such terrifying forces hidden in our sky cloud realm. Brother Qin, are you and them mortal enemies? Also, why do you have the purple gold divine dragon's bloodline power? Are you also one of the dragons? Everyone was like curious babies, asking all kinds of questions at once. When facing the dragons and the others, Qin Feiyong wasn't nervous at all, but now looking at these enthusiastic people, he couldn't help but panic. Ahem. Quiet down. Qin Feiyong just went through a big battle. Let him have a good rest first. Princess Wuffing came over with pyrotechnic glow, and the others to help Qin Feiyong. Princess Wuffing didn't speak, but now that she did, some people immediately surrounded her. Miss, I just heard that you are also one of the Feng people. Since you are also one of the Feng people, why do you help Qin Feiyang when Bing Runing wants to kill Qin Feiyang? Also, I overheard your brother saying something about brother-in-law. Are you and Qin Feiyang a couple? A couple? Qin Feiyang and the woman of the Feng people are in love? Amazing. You can even get a divine beast like the phoenix. You are really making us humans proud. Hearing this, everyone started gossiping. First, Princess Fire Phoenix finally realized what it meant to be feared by gossip. Originally, there was no such thing at all, but now that people said it, it was as if it was true. Thank you for your trust and support. I have something to do, so I will leave first. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more chaotic, Qin Feiyang hurriedly left and used the space-time step to escape with the frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf without looking back. This kind of enthusiasm was really a bit overwhelming. Seeing this, Princess Huofeng also immediately led Pyrotechnic Glow and the others to chase after Qin Feiyang and the others. Chapter 3588. I didn't expect them to be so popular now. In the distant void, Elder Hua and the other two could not help but smile when they saw this scene. Of course. After all, they have done many good deeds in the Eastern continent all these years. Most importantly, no matter how big the commotion is, they have never implicated any innocent living beings. The Alliance Master, Hall Master, and Shun Meng walked over and chuckled softly. Elder Hua and the other two were stunned. They turned to look at the 3 humans and 2 beasts. Seeing that the Vice Alliance Master and Hall of Famers were glowing, Elder Hua could not help but tease, Old Yi, Old Chi, what good things have happened to you too? Why are you so happy? Aren't you asking the obvious? The Vice Alliance Master rolled his eyes at him. Elder Hua could not help but laugh. Our disciples are so outstanding. It's indeed worth being happy about. It's a pity that no one knows about it. Because they had no choice but to put on an act back then. Everyone thought that they had fallen out with Qin Feiyang and the others. Naturally, no one would associate it with them. It doesn't matter if others know about it, as long as we know it in our hearts. The Hall of Famers smiled faintly. That's true. Elder Hua nodded. The Shin Meng couple asked, now that the dragons have returned to their nest, the threat to us has disappeared. Can we stop worrying about it? No. Although the dragons have returned to their nest temporarily, as long as they are still there, the danger will not be resolved. Elder Hor immediately thought to himself, that's right. The dragons are afraid of those brats now, but they are not afraid of us. With the dragon's strength, it will be easy for them to destroy the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demonic Hall. If the dragons find out that we have been putting on an act in front of them, it will be a disaster for us. Although I don't know where Little Lunatic found so many sovereign divine weapons, they can't stay in the Demonic Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to protect us forever. So now, we have to be more cautious than before. We can't let the dragons get hold of our weakness, lest we implicate them. The Vice Alliance Master said telepathically. Old Chi is right. It doesn't matter if you can't help. What I'm most afraid of is making things worse. The Hall of Famers nodded. The Demon Hall's Hall Master smiled to himself and said, let's go back. Don't think too much. Let's just live our leisurely days in peace. They exchanged glances and smiled. Then, each of them opened a space-time tunnel and left. In the distance, He Zhongtian's eyes flashed. He also activated a space-time teleportation divine artifact and left without looking back. On the other side of the sea, 2 men and 1 woman stood side by side. All 3 of them were middle-aged and emitted powerful auras. They were the 3 big shots of the North Continent's Heaven Palace. The middle-aged woman retracted her gaze and looked at the 2 middle-aged men beside her. She asked, what do you think of this matter? What does this have to do with us? The Eastern Continent, the Western Continent, and the Southern Continent have been messed up by Qin Feiyang all these years. Only our Northern Continent is still relatively peaceful. Let's keep it that way. That's right. We can't afford to offend the dragons and the Feng people. We can't afford to offend people like Qin Feiyang and the madman. Since we have a chance to stay out of trouble, we must not take the initiative to provoke them. The 2 middle-aged men said. The middle-aged couple thought for a moment and nodded with a smile. All right, let's go back. After the three giants left, the people gathered in the sky above the sea also left one after another with high spirits. At the same time, in the sky above an island in the distance, Qin Feiyang and the others stopped and turned around to look behind. They all had lingering fear. Princess Huofeng let out a long breath and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf. I didn't expect you to be so popular in the Sky Cloud realm. Daifuku and Xiaofu also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. They thought that people like Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf would definitely be infamous. Who would have thought that all they saw was respect and love? Of course, we have done a lot of good things in the Sky Cloud realm. White-Eyed Wolf smiled proudly. Good things? Princess Huofeng didn't think so. Maybe. The madman looked at them and whispered, Old Qin, why don't you introduce us? There's nothing to introduce. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What do you mean there's nothing to introduce? I am the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. Is it shameful for you to follow me? Princess Huofeng raised her eyebrows. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed to hide the embarrassment on his face. He looked at the madman and said, She is the princess of the Feng people, and this pyrotechnic glow is her oviparous brother. One of them is called Daifuku, and the other is called Xiaofu. As for them, Qin Feiyang looked at the two middle-aged women standing behind Pyrotechnic Glow and shook his head. I don't know who they are. Pyrotechnic Glow quickly smiled and said, Brother-in-law, they are Aunt May and Aunt Lon. They watched me grow up. What the hell? Qin Feiyang's expression froze. Brother-in-law? White-Eyed Wolf and the madman also looked at each other. Is there something wrong with this kid's brain? Princess Huofeng, the Daifuku brothers, and Aunt May also looked extremely embarrassed. Aunt May stared at Pyrotechnic Glow, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the madman. She said apologetically, Little brothers, I'm sorry. Zihue likes to joke. Please forgive him. Pyrotechnic Glow hurriedly said, Aunt May, I'm not joking. He is my brother-in-law. Pyrotechnic Glow, are you done? Princess Huofeng shouted. Pyrotechnic Glow suddenly shrank his neck. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Then he pointed at White-Eyed Wolf and looked at Pyrotechnic Glow. Your brother-in-law is him, not me. Everyone was stunned again. White-Eyed Wolf was also stunned. Then the veins on his forehead bulged. He shouted, Are you crazy? Why did you drag me into this? I don't want this unreasonable woman even if you give her to me. What did you say? I'm unreasonable? Princess Huofeng immediately stared at White-Eyed Wolf angrily. Yes. Is there a second first princess here? White-Eyed Wolf looked at her with disdain. Then why don't you tell me how I'm being unreasonable? If you don't make it clear, I won't let you off today. Princess Huofeng's face darkened. She gritted her teeth and looked so fierce that she wanted to skin White-Eyed Wolf alive. Okay, let me have a good talk with you. How did we treat you in the land of heavy regions? Although there was a little friction, we were always very polite to you. We even saved you from being ruining. But what about you? How did you repay us? You actually set little Yun up behind our backs and made us search desperately for him outside. Ask your conscience, aren't you wicked? White-Eyed Wolf sneered. Little Yun? Princess Huofeng was stunned. It's Yun Zhongtian. White-Eyed Wolf waved his claws impatiently. Princess Huofeng's mouth twitched when she heard that. An old man in his 70s or 80s actually called someone Little Yun. Didn't he feel uncomfortable? Say something. I want to see how you can quibble today. White-Eyed Wolf looked at her mockingly. Princess Huofeng glared at White-Eyed Wolf angrily. He really did not give her any face. Old Qin, what's the situation? Frenzy looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and eldest princess who were quarreling endlessly with a stunned expression. Qin Feiyang said to himself, You can't blame me. It was White-Eyed Wolf himself who said that he wanted to try and get along with this woman. Is that so? Frenzy suddenly seemed to have discovered a new continent as he chuckled. Brother Wolf is finally enlightened. I am relieved. I am also quite happy. And the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan is also worthy of White-Eyed Wolf. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Yes, yes. Frenzy nodded. When White-Eyed Wolf and eldest princess quarreled, they really looked like a pair of quarrelsome lovers. Daifuku, Xiaofu, what's the situation? Isn't brother-in-law Qin Feiyong? Pyrotechnic Glow was also dumbfounded. Your Highness, what are you doing all day? This is not a problem at all. Daifuku and Brother Wolf sighed helplessly. It's not Qin Feiyong. But this wolf cub? No, 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 absolutely not. Pyrotechnic Glow came back to his senses and rushed to Princess Wuffing's side. He glared at the white-eyed wolf and said, Wolf cub, don't dream of eating swan meat. Give up, I won't allow it. Daifuku and Brother Wolf looked at the sky and were speechless. Why was His Highness so worrisome? He always did what he wanted to do. I am a toad. She is a swan? White-eyed Wolf was also stunned. Where did this sense of superiority come from? Of course. Why don't you take a look at yourself? Do you think you are worthy of my sister? Pyrotechnic Glow looked disdainful. Okay. I admit defeat when I meet you siblings. White-eyed Wolf waved his paws, too lazy to talk nonsense. We're siblings? Wait. Today, you have to tell me clearly. The person who said you is my brother. How did I provoke you? Princess Wuffing grabbed the white-eyed wolf's tail and said angrily, Are you done? White-eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows. Interesting. Qin Feiyong and Madman not only didn't stop the fight, but also laughed. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong patted his head and turned to look at Madman. He asked suspiciously, Where did you get those 8 sovereign divine weapons? I don't have the ability. Someone lent them to me. Madman waved his hand. Who? Qin Feiyong was stunned. To be able to lend Madman 8 sovereign divine weapons at once, this was not something an ordinary person could do. The most important thing was this trust in Madman. Think about it. If it wasn't for absolute trust in Madman, who would dare to lend him so many sovereign divine weapons? Could it be Big Brother? It's not them. Madman shook his head and whispered in Qin Feiyong's ear. It's the 8 Beast Emperors. So it's them. Qin Feiyong suddenly understood. His face revealed a look of shock as he muttered, I didn't expect them to have a sovereign divine weapon each. Not to mention you, when I saw it, I was also shocked. Madman smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and glanced at the surrounding sea. He sighed. It seems that this heavenly cloud sea isn't as simple as we think. And Madman nodded. The heavenly cloud sea could definitely be called the 5th forbidden area of the sky cloud domain. Fortunately, the heavenly cloud sea was on their side. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 3589. What are they mumbling about? The Daifuku brothers and Aunt May had been paying attention to Qin Feiyong and Madman. I don't know. But now, why should we follow them? Aunt May and Madman looked suspiciously at the Daifuku brothers. The matter was over. Shouldn't they return to the phoenix nest? Daifuku said, There is one more thing that needs the help of Qin Feiyong and the others. This matter is related to the future of the princess and the prince. Future? The more Aunt May and Madman heard, the more confused they became. How could the future of the 2 princes be related to Qin Feiyong and the others? Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at the white-eyed wolf and the first princess who were still arguing. He was speechless. White-eyed wolf, you are a man. Can't you let her have her way? There is something wrong with your words. Why should a man let a woman have her way? Besides, do you think she looks like a woman? The white-eyed wolf snorted. How do I not look like a woman? Princess Wuffing was about to explode from anger at the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyong and Madman smiled helplessly. With a wave of their hand, a group of people immediately appeared in the black tortoise world. Immediately, Princess Wuffing calmed down, her eyes filled with anticipation. This is that independent world? The Daifuku brothers also looked around curiously. Compared to the Daifuku brothers, Pyrotechnic Glow and Aunt May knew nothing about the black tortoise world. The surprise on their faces was even stronger. I mean what I say. Qin Feiyong looked at Princess Wuffing and smiled. He then looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, Take them to the cultivation room. The pills that Dan Wonkai refined are all inside. Why should I go? The white-eyed wolf was dissatisfied. Qin Feiyong said, I have something to discuss with senior brother. He was actually quite depressed in his heart. What a pig brain. Can't you see that I am creating an opportunity for you? But he didn't know that with his cultivation, he was really causing trouble for the white-eyed wolf. Back then, the white-eyed wolf was just joking. He didn't have much interest in the first princess of the Feng people. Hurry up and go. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Madman urged. The ingrate glared at the two of them, then looked at Princess Huafeng and said, "Come with me." It was rare for Princess Huafeng to not be angry. She immediately pulled Hua Zihui and followed the ingrate into the castle. The Dafu brothers and Aunt Mei looked at each other and couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "You guys go too. The siblings need your help later." "Thank you." Daifuku cupped his hands and thanked him. Then, he hurried in. Is Brother Wolf serious this time? Why doesn't it look like it? Madman scratched his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Don't you know it? If we don't help it, even if a sky immortal stands in front of it, it won't be moved. Qin Feiyang was helpless. That's true. Madman nodded and smiled bitterly. Let's go to the tea garden. I will tell you about our experience in the heavy region and let you know our current relationship with the Feng people. The two entered the tea garden and sat opposite each other. Qin Feiyang drank tea while Madman drank wine. They chatted. After a long time, Madman suddenly said, "No wonder you will help them open the door of potential. It turns out that you have an agreement with the Fire Feng people. Then, let's talk about you. How did Big Brother train you?" He comprehended two supreme profound meanings so quickly. Qin Feiyang was curious. Training? Madman's mouth twitched and said helplessly, "That's torture. Okay?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "To be able to comprehend too profound, even if it's torture, it's still a blessing. You don't deny it, right? But to be honest, these years, I have been living a life worse than death every day." Madman sighed. What about Old Pei and the others? What level have they reached now? Qin Feiyang asked. The people who went this time have basically stepped into the perfection ruler realm. Even Wang Xiaojia, Qin Chen, Long Tianyu, and Zhuo Xiaocheng have stepped into the ruler realm. As for Old Pei and Old Wang, they were originally perfection ruler realm. Of course, they are stronger now. You have to be mentally prepared. When they come out, they will definitely give you a shock. Madman snickered. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Whether it was a surprise or a shock, as long as he became stronger, he would be happy. He asked, "What about the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang?" "I didn't notice them when I went, because that place is very big. After entering, everyone separated. I didn't plan to come out so soon, but I heard from Big Brother that you were going to fight the Crown Prince of the Dragons, so I was worried and came out to take a look." Madman shook his head. "Then when do you plan to go back?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I can't go back. That bastard rabbit said that if I leave, I can forget about going back in the future. You know its character. It always means what it says. However, I am strong enough now. I don't need to go back." Madman waved his hand in a carefree manner. Similarly, his friendship with Qin Feiyang was touching. He would rather give up such a good cultivation environment to come out and help him. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang held his teacup and smiled. What's the point of saying thanks between brothers? Madman rolled his eyes and clinked his wine cup in the air. Then, a smile appeared on both their faces. "Brother Qin, Brother Imo," suddenly, accompanied by a hoarse voice, Yun Zhongtian flew over. "Old Yun, it's been hard on you." Madman looked up at Yun Zhongtian and smiled. No. The one who has worked hard is Brother Qin." Yun Zhongtian waved his hand. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the death god's sword appeared and flew in front of Yun Zhongtian. Yun Zhongtian was taken aback. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Why don't we let the death god's sword follow you first?" "It's the same." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "All right." Yun Zhongtian nodded and kept the death god's sword. He sat by the side and looked at Madman in admiration. "Brother Imo, your strength has improved very quickly." "Of course. How can a monstrous genius be undeserved?" Madman smiled proudly. Haha, Yun Zhongtian couldn't help but laugh. He really didn't know how to be humble at all. How would he know? In Madman's dictionary, There was no such word as humble. Buzz. Suddenly, the sound transmission godstone rang. Qin Feiyong took out the sound transmission godstone and looked down. A smile appeared on his face. Who is it? Madman was suspicious. Elder Hua. Qin Feiyong smiled. After awakening, he realized that not only Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the Demon Hall Master were also there. Madman smiled. Now you guys are comfortable. The dragon's men have been scared away by us. No one will threaten you guys anymore. Yes, we are comfortable. Elder Hua nodded. He was in a good mood. Looking at Qin Feiyong and Madman, he asked, "What kind of monsters are you two? How did you break through to the Paragon Dominator realm so quickly and even grasp two of the strongest laws?" Don't be envious. This is not something you can be envious of. Madman smiled proudly. Elder Hua rolled his eyes. He looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, "What is going on between you and the Feng people? They want to kill you and help you at the same time?" The Feng people have two races. One is the Ice Phoenix, the other is the Fire Phoenix. Qin Feiyong explained the situation simply. So that's the case. Elder Hua nodded and said, "There is something that I have discussed with the Hall Master and Xiao Yun. We feel that there is a need to tell you." What is it? Qin Feiyong looked at the three of them in confusion. Previously, when you were fighting with the Crown Prince of the Dragons, there was an old man with a white beard. You know him too. He is the storyteller in the tea house. Elder Hua said. Storyteller? Qin Feiyong was stunned. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, "I have some impression. What about him?" This person said something very strange at the time. Elder Hua frowned. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. Strange words? That's right. He said a lot about the origin of the purple gold dragon blood. Elder Hua said. What? Qin Feiyong suddenly stood up and asked, "What did he say?" He said that many years ago, a purple gold dragon blood appeared and fell in love with a human man. Elder Hua repeated what the white-bearded old man said without missing a single word. This? Qin Feiyong and Yun Zhongtian were dumbfounded. What's wrong? Madman looked at the two of them in shock. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice, "You don't know. When I asked Elder Hua about the Feng people, he said the same thing." What? Madman was stunned. Elder Hua and the other two also realized that this matter was not simple. Yun Zhongtian furrowed his brows and looked at Qin Feiyong to ask, according to what the Fiery Phoenix clan leader had said at that time, all of this was a secret and the number of people who knew about it could be counted on one hand. How did this white-bearded old man know about it? He's a storyteller. Could it be that he just guessed it? Chu Yun said, "Impossible. There's no smoke without fire. Besides, if he really guessed it, there must be some deviation. How can it be exactly the same as what Elder Hua Feng people said? There must be a problem here." Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. You mean, he might be someone who knows about it? Elder Hua asked. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Qin Feiyong clenched his fists. Elder Hua heard this and pondered for a while before saying, "If that's the case, then let's go to the tea house now and control him." No need. Don't do anything about this. I'll go. Although the dragons have returned, our relationship can't be known by others. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. We know this. Elder Hua nodded. All right then. Qin Feiyong turned off the divine sound transmission stone and turned to look at Madman, saying, "Master and the others will definitely send us a message later. Instead of waiting for them to send a message, why don't we take the initiative to send them a message and explain the situation during this period of time? Don't let them worry." Okay. Madman took out the divine sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyong looked at Yun Zhongtian and said, "Elder Yun, go to the ancient castle and help keep an eye on it. Tell the white-eyed wolf to come over." Okay. Yun Zhongtian nodded his head and got up to head straight for the ancient castle. Chapter 3590. Buzz. Not long after, the Hall of Famers, the deputy leader, the leader, and the divine python couple appeared. The Hall of Famers laughed hoarsely. "We were just about to send you a message." Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other. Sure enough, it was understandable. After all, so many things had happened. As elders, they would definitely care about them first. The two of them didn't hide anything and told the leader and the others the whole story. During this time, the white-eyed wolf also joined the group chat. After that, knowing that Qin Feiyang and the others still had important matters to deal with, the leader and the others didn't delay any longer. They reminded them to be careful and turned off the voice transmission god stone. Xiaoyan already gave a simple explanation of the situation in the castle earlier. Actually, at the tea house, I had a feeling that this old man was a little incomprehensible. I thought it was an illusion, but I didn't expect that there really was a problem. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and the madman and said, because it was the one who kidnapped the white-bearded old man, it had the most contact. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, let's not talk about this first. Has your energy C recovered? Yes. The white-eyed wolf nodded, then frowned and said, it's strange. My recovery speed seems to be at least twice as fast as before. Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other and then at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. For example, in the past, it took me an hour to recover. Now, it seems that I can do it in less than an hour. The white-eyed wolf explained, his face full of suspicion. There's such a thing? Qin Feiyang frowned. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said in surprise, could this be related to your bloodline power? I thought so too. The white-eyed wolf nodded. No matter what, this is a good thing. We'll study it slowly in the future. Let's go to the tea house first. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and two people and one wolf appeared above the sea. The white-eyed wolf immediately waved its paw, and a space-time crack appeared. The two men and one wolf rushed into the passage without looking back. In the next moment, they arrived at the entrance of the tea house. Several years passed. There were no changes in the tea house. Most of the people who came here were scholars. The sound of the zither was still melodious. Isn't this young Master Qin, young Master Mo, and Lord Golden-Winged Wolf King? It was the same red-clothed woman who had received Qin Feiyang last time. She quickly walked out and looked at Qin Feiyang, the young man, and the white-eyed wolf with a smile. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, Golden-Winged Wolf King. When the guests sitting inside heard the woman in red's words, they looked toward the door and their expressions changed drastically. Weren't you still fighting on White Crane Island? How did you come to the tea house so quickly? I heard that Qin Feiyang is also a tea lover. It seems that he was also attracted by the king of tea here, the Longjing tea. A few people whispered, wow, it's really them. They are indeed extraordinary and handsome. A group of young women ran out of the tea house when they heard the news. When they saw Qin Feiyang and the madman, their eyes lit up. You have good taste. The madman touched his chin and smiled narcissistically. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and looked at the red-clothed woman with a smile. May I ask if the storyteller is in the tea house right now? You are looking for the old man? The red-clothed woman was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The red-clothed woman asked suspiciously, then may I ask why young master is looking for the old man? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Just say it. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows and shouted. The red-clothed woman's pupils constricted and she hurriedly said, Lord Wolf King, please calm down. This old man hasn't been to the tea house for a long time. The two people and the wolf looked at each other. The red-clothed woman asked, I wonder if the three of you have heard about the old man being kidnapped last time? I've heard about it. Qin Feiyang nodded. Since then, the old man has never been here again. If not for someone seeing the old man on White Crane Island not long ago, we would have thought that something had happened to him. So, I'm very sorry for making the three of you come here for nothing. The red-clothed woman smiled apologetically. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and waved his hand with a smile. It's fine. Then do you know where he lives? The madman thought for a moment and asked the red-clothed woman. I don't know. Actually, I'm not very familiar with the old man. When he came to the tea house to tell stories, he was the one who asked for it. My young master found his stories quite interesting, so he asked him to come to the tea house to tell stories every day. The red-clothed woman smiled. I see. Qin Feiyang smiled and cupped his hands. Then I won't disturb you any longer. Young master, take care. The red-clothed woman bowed to send him off. Qin Feiyong, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf turned around and walked down the street aimlessly. Why did he disappear? Could it be that he also realized that he had attracted our attention? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. No, he didn't disappear. That red-clothed woman must know his whereabouts. Qin Feiyong shook his head. What do you mean? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. The madman spoke first and laughed. Because this woman revealed a flaw. A flaw? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Why didn't it notice it? Qin Feiyong looked at the madman and said with a smile, "Senior brother's insight is still so terrifying. Don't flatter me." The madman rolled his eyes and looked at the white-eyed wolf. If the two really have an ordinary relationship, if it were you, would you respect the other party? Furthermore, it was a look of respect on his face. Of course not. The white-eyed wolf shook his head without thinking. That's right. If it were anyone else, facing someone who has nothing to do with them, they would at most show kindness and would never show respect. But that woman just now, when she talked about the white-bearded old man, although she concealed it, it wasn't difficult to see her respect for the white-bearded old man. If it was as she said, that she wasn't familiar with the white-bearded old man, then how could there be such respect in her words when facing an ordinary storyteller? The madman sneered. I see. The white-eyed wolf nodded in realization and then asked in confusion, "Then why didn't you directly expose her lie? Are you stupid? It's obvious that the white-bearded old man is related to the tea house. If we exposed her face to face, wouldn't it be the same as alerting the enemy?" The madman rolled his eyes at the white-eyed wolf. That's right. It's not good for us to alert the enemy. And do you think a mere staff member has the guts to lie to us? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. The white-eyed wolf pondered and frowned. You mean, it was the housemaster behind the tea house who made the woman say that? Who else could it be besides him? Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. Now, not only the white-bearded old man, but also the entire tea house had problems. Brother Qin. Suddenly, two young men ran over. Qin Feiyong turned to look at the two young men and was slightly surprised. Both of them were around 20 years old, wearing brocade clothes and had extraordinary temperaments. Their cultivation was not bad, half-step imperishable realm. He had seen them before in the garden of the tea house. The two ran over breathlessly and nodded to the madman and the white-eyed wolf. What's the matter? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. The two calmed down and turned to look at the tea house. They whispered, Brother Qin. We're here to tell you a little secret. Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at the white-eyed wolf curiously. Actually, the people of the tea house are very familiar with the storyteller. I remember one time when we were sitting in the tea house drinking tea, we accidentally saw the woman sending a message to the white-bearded old man. Think about it. They have established a contract bridge. How can their concern be bad? The two whispered. Well, Qin Feiyong frowned and asked, is it possible that they established a contract because of work so that they can contact each other? No. I saw that they were chatting happily, and we noticed that the woman seemed to be very respectful when facing the white-bearded old man. In fact, not only us, but everyone who used to visit the tea house thought that the white-bearded old man was the elder of the owner of the tea house. So when we heard the woman say that she was not familiar with the white-bearded old man, we were very surprised. The two shook their heads. Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at the white-eyed wolf, and a light flashed in their eyes at the same time. Qin Feiyong looked at the two again and said with a smile, Then let me ask you another thing. When did the tea house appear? When did it appear? The two were stunned. When did it open for business? Qin Feiyong asked in a different way. Oh, you mean this? The two suddenly smiled and said, Let's think about it. After that, the two lowered their heads and pondered. After a while, one of the young men's eyes lit up. He looked up at Qin Feiyong and said, It should be more than 500 years ago. Yes, yes, yes. It was more than 500 years ago. The other young man also nodded quickly, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Because on the day of the opening, I came with a friend. More than 500 years ago, Qin Feiyong murmured. At this time, he was already a little famous in the Sky Cloud realm. Brother Qin, dare I ask? Why did you ask about the tea house? The two looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Nothing, just curious. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at the two with a smile. Thank you for telling me, brothers. When you have time next time, I will invite you to tea at the tea house. Really? Then we will be looking forward to it. The two were pleasantly surprised. Qin Feiyang smiled and cupped his hands. Then we will take our leave first? Okay. The two nodded. After walking away, Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked back. Seeing the two young men leave happily, he looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "It seems that as we guessed, this tea house has a lot of secrets. More than 500 years ago, if I remember correctly, we were already famous in the Sky Cloud realm." The madman laughed. Low-key, low-key. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Tea house, Mr. Storyteller. Interesting. Let's go. Let's meet this mysterious house master. Qin Feiyang's mind moved and activated the concealment art. The two men and the wolf immediately disappeared. Chapter 3591. Under the state of invisibility, the two humans and one wolf were simply unhindered. Not only did they smoothly enter the tea house, but they also successfully entered the teacups inside. The strange thing was, they didn't see the woman in red in the garden or the tea house outside. Was it possible that she was upstairs? Hence, the two of them and the wolf entered the second floor without anyone noticing. There were many tea guests on the second floor, but they still didn't see the woman in red. What's the situation? The two of them and the wolf looked around, their faces full of suspicion. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang saw a staircase leading to the third floor. Immediately, they entered the third floor. There was no guest on the third floor. It was empty. The two of them and the wolf stood by the railing and looked around. Finally, they found a half-closed door in front of them. Hence, they walked over. Through the door, they could see that it was a study room. There was a desk and a bookshelf on the left and a coffee table and a tea set on the right. It looked very neat and clean, and there was a nice smell of incense. The two of them and the wolf looked at each other and walked in quietly. There was no one in the study room. However, Qin Feiyang noticed that the teapot on the coffee table was still bubbling and there was still half a cup of tea. The teacups were hot, and it was obvious that they had just been poured. This is strange. This should be the place where the owner of the tea house rests. Why don't I see anyone? The white-eyed wolf muttered. Madman let go of Qin Feiyang and appeared from his invisible state. He walked to the front of the bookshelf and looked at it for a while. Then, he smiled and said, "Astronomy, geography, poetry, ancient history, there are all kinds of books here. It seems like this floor master is really a scholar. Don't talk about this nonsense. I just want to know where this person went." The white-eyed wolf frowned. The madman turned to look at the desk and was slightly stunned. He quickly waved to Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. "Come here." Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. They quickly walked over and saw the 4 treasures of the study placed on the desk. A piece of white paper was placed flat on the desk, and an ink stone was placed on top of it. On top of the ink stone, there was an exquisite writing brush. There were a few lines of words on the paper. "Brother Qin, this humble one knows that Xiao Ying's previous performance cannot escape Brother Qin's eyes. You will definitely secretly come back to investigate, so this humble one will leave first. Brother Qin, please do not investigate my origins any further. When the time is right, I will naturally appear and explain everything. Also, presently, the Tea Pavilion can be considered to be a famous place for scholars in Ocean of Cloud City. It would truly be a waste if it were to close down just like that. So, I'll give it to Brother Qin and leave behind the Longjing tea seedlings. I hope that Brother Qin can deal with it properly. I hope Jun and Mo Nian will see you again." Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf were dumbfounded when they saw the content. Not only did they not find the person, they even got into such trouble. Moreover, this person was quite considerate and left behind the tea seedlings of the Longjing tea seedlings for them. This person is smart. He knew that we were coming, so he immediately fled. The madman smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf also walked out of their invisible state. Qin Feiyang glanced at the desk. There was a cosmos bag beside the inkstone. Then, he grabbed the cosmos bag and immersed his divine sense into it. There were over 100 saplings lying quietly inside. Every single one of them was only the height of a palm. They were snow-white and seemed to be condensed from frost. They emitted a shocking divine radiance. Were these the tea seedlings of the Longjing tea seedlings? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Little Qin Zi, what should we do now?" The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He hadn't expected that he would be tricked. This housemaster was really smart. He actually knew that the woman in red's performance couldn't escape his eyes. "I'm very willing to accept these tea seedlings, but this tea pavilion." Qin Feiyang wasn't interested in it at all. He might as well use this time to cultivate. "Then let's just leave," the white-eyed wolf said. The madman pondered and said, "I think we should keep the tea pavilion, because if this housemaster wants to find us, he will definitely come to the tea pavilion first." "Keep you here to take care of it?" the white-eyed wolf asked. "Me?" The madman's face stiffened and he said disdainfully, "I'm a drinker. How can I be interested in taking care of a tea house? Doesn't little Qin Zi like to drink tea? He's here." "Do you think I want to talk to you?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at the madman. He did like to drink tea, but drinking tea and taking care of a tea house were two different things. Who said that tea drinkers like to open tea houses? The madman smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while. Then, he suddenly looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "I thought of someone." "Who?" The man and the wolf looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang didn't answer. He directly took out the voice-transmitting stone. Buzz. Soon, a shadow appeared. It was Yueqing. "Qin Dage, Brother Mo, Brother Wolf King." Yueqing's face was full of smiles. "Are you still in the Western continent?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile.
Yes.
"What's the matter?" Yueqing nodded and asked, "There is indeed something I need your help with. Since you are in the Western continent, ask Meow Meow to come to the tea pavilion now. I'll wait for her in the study on the 3rd floor." Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Tea pavilion?" Yueqing was stunned. After thinking for a moment, she frowned and said, "You mean the tea pavilion on the outskirts of the eastern city?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Yueqing looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and nodded. "Okay, I'll send a message to Meow Meow." About a moment later, a woman in colorful clothes walked into the tea pavilion coldly. "Isn't this the owner of the Tianyue Tower, Meow? Why did she come to the tea pavilion? She is indeed a great beauty with exceptional talent. If I can marry her, I'll wake up laughing in my sleep." With Meow's arrival, the tea pavilion immediately caused a commotion. But Meow turned a deaf ear to all this. She went straight into the tea pavilion, went up to the 3rd floor, found the study, and quickly walked to the door of the study. Seeing Qin Feiyang, Lin Mengya, and the white-eyed wolf inside, her cold expression suddenly melted. She was like a beautiful bud in full bloom, full of charm. Qin Feiyang sensed Meow's aura. He turned to look at Meow, who was standing at the door, and said with a smile, "Why are you standing outside? Come in quickly." Meow nodded and walked in quickly. She chuckled and said, "Qin Feiyang, Brother Mo, Brother Wolf King. You showed off your invincible power on White Crane Island not long ago. Now it's spread in all the major cities. It's just a small matter." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He handed the letter left by the owner of the tea pavilion to Meow. Meow took the letter suspiciously. She lowered her head and read it. She asked in confusion, "What does this mean? Do you know the owner of this place?" "I don't know him." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "If you don't know him, why did he give you the tea pavilion?" Meow suddenly felt a little confused. "Maybe it's because I'm popular." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "But I'm really not interested in these things. So I asked you to come and see if you have time to help me take care of it." There's no problem with the time, but I don't know much about the way of tea. I'm afraid." Meow was a little hesitant. Who said that managing a tea house requires one to know about tea? Besides, you can ask someone who knows about tea to help manage it. In short, I'll give you the tea pavilion now. You can manage it however you want. I won't object even if it's included in the assets of Tianyue Tower. As for the Longjing tea, I think there should be a lot of it in the tea pavilion's warehouse. You can use it sparingly. When the tea saplings on my side are cultivated, I'll get someone to send it to you. Of course, you can also look for other tea leaves. After all, with your current status and financial resources, it's not difficult to find a tea comparable to the Longjing tea. With that, Qin Feiyong let the white-eyed wolf open a space-time passage. Qindage, Miao hurriedly called out, but Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf didn't respond. They entered the space-time passage without looking back and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Looking at this scene, Miao couldn't help but find it funny. She didn't expect that there was something that scared these two people and a wolf. In fact, Qin Feiyong and the others weren't scared. They just found it troublesome. Buzz. The divine voice-transmitting stone sounded. Miao took out the divine voice-transmitting stone, and Yueqing's virtual image appeared. Yueqing asked, "Have you been to the tea pavilion?" "I'm at the tea pavilion now." Miao smiled bitterly. "What about Qindage and the others?" Yueqing asked. "They ran away." Miao shook her head. "Ran away? What's the situation?" Yueqing was suspicious. Miao briefly explained the situation. Yueqing was stunned. She shook her head and said, "Don't blame them. After all, it's a waste of time for them to take care of the tea house. Since Qindage and the others have given the tea pavilion to us, then we'll do our best and take care of it well." "That's the only way." Miao smiled helplessly. "Actually, for our Tianyue Tower, this is also an opportunity. I've been thinking, now that the Tianyue Tower has stabilized in the western and eastern continents, should we expand our business?" I think it's a good choice," Yueqing said with a smile. Miao was slightly taken aback. She said suspiciously, "Although the Tianyue Tower has stabilized in the western and eastern continents, we haven't settled in the southern and northern continents yet, right? Although we have Qin Feiyong as our backer, and it won't be a problem to enter the southern continent now, if we act too hastily, it might arouse the suspicion of the dragons. After all, the two of us have no power or influence, and we don't have powerful strength. It's difficult for them not to suspect us," Yueqing said in a deep voice. "That's true." Miao nodded and said with a smile, "All right, I'll make the arrangements now. Then I'll have to trouble you first. In a few days, I'll go back and play with you. At the same time, I'll plan the development of the tea pavilion. Since it has fallen into our hands, it naturally can't be just the Cloud Sea City." Yueqing smiled. "Okay." Miao nodded. Outside the city, above a huge mountain, Qin Feiyong, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf stood in the void, looking at the Cloud Sea City with a smile on their faces. They had finally gotten rid of this trouble. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath, looked at the madman and said, "I'll go to the Black Tortoise world first. Ask Master and the others about the coordinates of the northern continent." "Go to the northern continent later?" The madman was stunned. "Didn't the young man ask us to go take a look? Then let's go take a look. Who knows, we might have an unexpected gain." Qin Feiyong smiled and entered the Black Tortoise world to find Pei Dason and Pei Hongyu. Chapter 3592. What is this? When Qin Feiyong handed the Qinkuan bag to the Pei siblings, the siblings were suspicious. "This is a tea sapling. You must cultivate it well. Not a single one can die," Qin Feiyong instructed. If it was wine, even if it was a divine brew, he wouldn't care. But tea was different. And these were the Yulu Longjing tea that was known as the king of tea. He had drunk the Yulu Longjing tea before, and the taste was no worse than the heavenly immortal dew. When the siblings heard this, they immediately said firmly, "Young master, don't worry, we will definitely complete the task," because they also knew that Qin Feiyong loved tea. For someone who loved tea, tea saplings were treasures. For Qin Feiyong to give them such an important thing, it meant that he trusted them, so they must not mess it up. What are they talking about? Suddenly, Qin Feiyong raised his head to look at the tea garden and discovered that Yun Zhongtian was seated with Princess Huafeng and the others, chatting and laughing as they chatted. Although less than an hour had passed outside, a long time had passed in the Black Tortoise world. Princess Huafeng and Pyrotechnic Glow were in high spirits, their bodies glowing with treasure light, as if they had been reborn. Obviously, they had successfully opened the door of potential. Who are they? The Pei siblings looked at the group of people suspiciously. Don't you know? Qin Feiyong was stunned. I don't know. During this time, we have been busy outside and haven't returned to the Devil's Land. The siblings shook their heads. They are from the Feng people. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed slightly, and with a wave of his hand, the three of them appeared in the tea garden. Young Master Qin. The Daifuka brothers and Aunt May immediately stood up and bowed to Qin Feiyong, and their eyes were full of gratitude. Especially Aunt May and Aunt Lon. They never thought that the legendary first volume of the Alchemy Mantra would be in the hands of Qin Feiyong. They also didn't expect that the Patriarch would reach such an agreement with Qin Feiyong. That was right. The Daifuka brothers had already told them about Qin Feiyong and Chief Huafeng people. Although it was just a transaction, he was still grateful to Qin Feiyong. Whether it was Daifuku, Xiaofu, Aunt May, or Aunt Lon, they all treated Princess Huafeng and Pyrotechnic Glow as their own children. His own child had opened the door to potential and was reborn. How could he not be happy? How could he not be grateful? Seniors, you're too polite. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and smiled politely. Seeing this, Daifuku and the other three had a better impression of Qin Feiyong. If it were other young people who had Qin Feiyong's achievements, they would definitely be arrogant and look down on others. But the kid in front of him didn't have any arrogance. Sister, you really don't want to think about this Qin Feiyong? Look, how charming he is. Look at that wolf cub. He's just a piece of trash. There's no comparison at all. Pyrotechnic Glow whispered. Haven't I told you the situation? Why are you still talking nonsense? Princess Huafeng glared at Pyrotechnic Glow and snorted. Besides, is the white-eyed wolf a piece of trash? Have you ever seen a piece of trash master the supreme meaning of the 5 strongest laws? If it's a piece of trash, then you're even worse than a piece of trash. Don't you know what your cultivation is? How dare you talk about others? Pyrotechnic Glow's face froze. In this way, he was really worse than a piece of trash. Pei Dason glanced at them and looked at Qin Feiyong. Young master, let's go plant tea seedlings first. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. The brother and sister turned and walked to the side, scanning the tea garden. Seeing a small open space on the left, Pei Dason took out a small sapling and said with a smile, Hongyu, plant one there. Okay. Pei Hongyu nodded, carefully holding the tea seedling, and walked toward the open space. Seeing this, Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise and said with a smile, brother-in-law, but before he could say anything, a fierce look glared at him. Pyrotechnic Glow shrunk his neck, smiled at Princess Huafeng, and quickly changed his words. Qindage, I didn't expect you to like drinking tea so much. There are so many tea plants, and you want to cultivate new ones. It's too simple. Add some new varieties. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Princess Huafeng glanced at the tea seedling in Pei Hongyu's hand. At first, she didn't pay much attention to it, but suddenly, she seemed to have noticed something. She stared at the tea seedling with a hint of surprise in her eyes. The Daifuku brothers noticed Princess Huafeng's anomaly and looked at the tea seedling suspiciously. Their pupils suddenly shrank. Xiaofu said telepathically, Your Highness, this seems to be the tea seedling of the Longjing Yulu? That's right. This is the Longjing Yulu. Why does Qin Feiyong have the Longjing Yulu's tea seedling? Although the Longjing Yulu isn't a divine tea, I remember that this is a new variety developed by that person. Other than him, no one else in this world can have it. Princess Huafeng thought to herself. So, these tea seedlings were given to Qin Feiyong by that person? When did they contact each other? The Daifuka brothers were secretly surprised. I don't know. Princess Huafeng shook her head and glanced at Qin Feiyong. Her eyes flickered with an inexplicable light. Qin Feiyong was entangled by Pyrotechnic Glow and didn't notice the abnormalities of Princess Huafeng and Daifuka brothers. It was worth mentioning that Pyrotechnic Glow, Aunt May, and Aunt Lon also saw the tea seedlings, but there was nothing unusual. Obviously, only Princess Huafeng and the Daifuku brothers knew the origin of the Longjing Yulu, but the three of them didn't say anything. Qindage, as a younger brother, I really don't want to criticize you. You're such a young and promising person. Why do you like these things that middle-aged and old people like? Isn't drinking good? Pyrotechnic Glow chattered nonstop. Qin Feiyong felt a headache. Why did he meet such a chatterbox? Moreover, tea should be for middle-aged and old people? What's wrong with young people drinking tea? Is it against the law? Qin Feiyong coughed dryly, looked at Princess Huofeng, and said with a smile, "The door of your potential has been opened. Can you? What? You don't like us? You're asking us to leave?" Princess Huofeng looked at Qin Feiyong with dissatisfaction. "I'm thinking for your sake. After all, we're destined to be enemies in the future. It's not good to mix too much personal feelings now." Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. "Now is now. The future is the future. Besides, before we left, Father didn't say that we must go back," Princess Huofeng said lightly. "Then what do you mean?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Princess Huofeng glanced around and said lightly, "I think it's quite comfortable here. The environment is good. The most important thing is that it's quiet. I plan to stay here for a while." Qin Feiyong was stunned. Daifuku, Pyrotechnic Glow, and the other two also looked at Princess Huofeng in shock. This didn't seem like something the eldest princess would say. Princess Huofeng looked at Pyrotechnic Glow and the other two and said with a smile, "Zihui, Aunt Mei, Aunt Lan, you can go back first? If you don't go back, why should I go back?" Pyrotechnic Glow quickly waved his hand, looking unhappy. "No, wait." Qin Feiyong quickly interrupted the conversation between the two and looked at Princess Huofeng angrily. "What's so good about my place? Let's not talk about anything else. Let's just talk about the time array. The dragons have the time array of 5,000 years in a day. You phone people must have it too. Why do you insist on staying here? What do you mean by insist? I'm the eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. Shouldn't you feel honored to stay here? Let's talk about it later. The Fire Phoenix Divine Jade and Fire Phoenix Sword are still with me." Princess Huofeng looked at Qin Feiyong proudly. "Don't forget that these two sovereign divine weapons belong to me temporarily." Qin Feiyong's face darkened. What kind of logic was this? So what if she was the eldest princess? It seemed that only the white-eyed wolf could deal with this woman. "Yes, the right to use them does belong to you, but the final control is still in my hands." Princess Huofeng smiled proudly. A row of black lines appeared on Qin Feiyong's forehead. He wanted to slap himself in the face. How could he be so stupid to reason with a woman? Can a woman be reasoned with? "Fine. I admit defeat. You want to follow me? Up to you. But if you want to stay in the Black Tortoise world, don't even think about it." Qin Feiyong waved his hand and forcefully swept up a group of people and appeared above the mountain peak outside. "Are you preparing to return to the Phoenix Nest?" The white-eyed wolf saw the group of people appear and looked at Princess Huofeng. He waved his hand and smiled. "I won't send you off. Take care." Princess Huofeng's expression froze. This damn wolf cub. Why did he seem more and more annoying? Qin Feiyong turned to Yun Zhongtian at the side and transmitted his voice over to him. "Old Yun, you had better go to Sky Cloud Island. You've seen senior brother Feng Zi's growth with your own eyes, and this is a great opportunity for you. Bring some wine with you to Big Brother as well." "Okay." Yun Zhongtian nodded. Indeed, Feng Er's growth over the years was too frightening. He didn't even dare to dream about it. So, why wouldn't he go with such a good opportunity? He would be a fool not to go. Yun Zhongtian took out the sword of Thanatos and looked at it pleadingly. "You must protect Brother Qin." Clang! The sword of Thanatos trembled in the void as a response. Then, it disappeared into Qin Feiyong's body. "White-eyed wolf, bring the wine." Qin Feiyong reached out to the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf jumped up and said angrily, "Are you crazy? Can't you go find Jiaoxi yourself? There's ready-made wine. Why would I go there?" Qin Feiyong bared his teeth. "How did I end up with such a bastard like you?" The white-eyed wolf was furious. With a wave of his paw, 2,000 jugs of peerless divine wine appeared. Looking at these jugs, Pyrotechnic Glow's eyes lit up. Qin Feiyong looked at Yun Zhongtian and smiled. "Go." Yun Zhongtian nodded. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf, He reminded them, "Be careful." Feng waved his hand. "We don't need you to worry about us. Work hard and don't let down old Qin's good intentions." "That's right. We'll wait for your strong return." The white-eyed wolf waved his paw and a space-time portal appeared. "We'll meet again." Yun Zhongtian waved his hand and brought the 2,000 jugs of peerless divine wine into the portal without looking back. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. "Looks like there's no need to control this old man anymore. He's already on our side. Although I haven't interacted much with him, I can tell that he's a good person." Feng nodded. Chapter 3593. "Where are you taking Yun Zhongtian to?" Princess Huafeng asked as she looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyong and the madman. But as the eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan, she knew her limits and did not ask any further. She then turned her head to look at Pyrotechnic Glow and Anime and said, "The two of you should go back as well." "What's the rush?" Pyrotechnic Glow waved his hand and went over to the white-eyed wolf's side and said with a chuckle, "Wolf Cub, what kind of wine is that? It looks rather tasty." Looking at the scene before her, Princess Huafeng's heart was filled with anger. The white-eyed wolf looked askance at Pyrotechnic Glow, and it was a long while before he spat out, "None of your business, you." Pyrotechnic Glow glared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf ignored him completely and turned his head to look at Qin Feiyong to ask, "Listening to a certain woman's words, it seems that you still want to shamelessly follow us?" Princess Huafeng's face darkened and she said angrily, Hey, I'm still right here. Don't treat me like air." "You're still here?" The white-eyed wolf was taken aback and he quickly turned to look at Princess Huafeng and smiled sheepishly. My apologies. Big Brother thought you had already left. But why are you still here? The door to your potential has already been opened, right? We don't have anything else that can move your heart now. What are you still hanging around here for?" Princess Huafeng's hands were clenched tightly and her veins were popping. This damned wolf cub is asking for a beating. Qin Feiyong was laughing happily in his heart. A wicked person would be dealt with by another wicked person. Only the white-eyed wolf would be able to take care of this woman. "You wouldn't have taken a fancy to Big Brother's peerless looks, would you?" Please don't. Big Brother has no interest in a woman without hair." The white-eyed wolf said with a shameless chuckle. "Scoundrel." Princess Huafeng couldn't take it anymore and slapped the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf raised his paw and easily blocked Princess Huafeng's arm. He frowned and said, "Are you trying to attract my attention?" No. I'm really not interested in you." "I purposely attracted your attention?" Princess Huafeng was stunned. Then, she became furious and roared, "Who do you think you are? Do I need to deliberately attract your attention?" She was about to explode from anger. How could there be such a shameless wolf cub in this world? The Daifuka brothers and Aunt May were also speechless. He had finally witnessed what it meant to be shameless. It was simply invincible. Pyrotechnic Glow glanced at Princess Huafeng and then at White-Eyed Wolf. He couldn't help but grumble in his heart. His sister was usually a very calm person. Why was she so easily angered now? Abnormal, too abnormal. No. He couldn't let his sister stay alone. It was too dangerous. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Aunt May and Lan Ruoxin and smiled. "Aunt May, Aunt Lan, you two go back first. Tell Father that I'll be playing outside for a while." "What?" Aunt May and Lan Ruoxin looked at Pyrotechnic Glow in shock. "It's a happy decision," Pyrotechnic Glow said as he pushed the two of them. "I want you two to go back so that you can help pay attention to Bing Runing's movements. I know this woman's character too well. After suffering such a big loss this time, she definitely won't let it go." Qin Feiyong heard this and looked at Pyrotechnic Glow in surprise. He didn't expect this person to be so smart. "Okay, then be careful." Aunt May and Lan Ruoxin smiled helplessly. Pyrotechnic Glow smiled proudly. "Don't worry. With the flaming phoenix blade and the divine phoenix spear protecting me, who dares to do anything to me?" The two of them shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They looked at Qin Feiyong and Lunatic and apologized. "We're sorry for causing trouble for you two brothers, but I hope you two brothers can help me take care of the two princes. Who needs their care?" Princess Huofeng snorted. Aunt May looked at the first princess and sighed. Your Highness, you can't say that. After all, you and your brother have just come out. But they are different. They have been wandering outside for a long time and know how sinister people can be. Also, you have good taste. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Aunt May and grinned. Aunt May smiled at White-Eyed Wolf and looked at the first princess and pyrotechnic glow. Anyway, try to listen to them. Don't be willful. I know. Princess Huofeng waved her hand. You still think we are long-winded? Aunt May and Lunatic shook their heads helplessly and turned to Daifuku. Daifuku opened a space-time tunnel, and the two of them walked in without looking back. How troublesome. White-Eyed Wolf glanced at the siblings, shook his head, and sighed. Princess Huofeng glared at him fiercely. It will be very lively along the way. Qin Feiyong also shook his head and sighed. He turned to Lunatic and asked, Do you have the coordinates of the northern continent? Yes. Lunatic nodded. Qin Feiyong said, Then let's change our appearances and set off. Why are we going to the northern continent? Pyrotechnic Glow looked at the two of them and the wolf suspiciously. White-Eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows and looked at Pyrotechnic Glow. Since you are following us, you should know a rule. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. If you don't speak, don't speak. What are you so arrogant for? Pyrotechnic Glow glared at White-Eyed Wolf. Not happy? Then scram. I'm not stopping you. White-Eyed Wolf said and turned into a big fat black cat. Wah, you're too funny. Pyrotechnic Glow was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. Idiot. White-Eyed Wolf glanced at him. Just these two words made Pyrotechnic Glow angry again. Qin Feiyong and Lunatic also turned into two ordinary-looking young men. Is it necessary? With your current strength, who dares to provoke you? Princess Huofeng didn't understand. If you want to be surrounded like a monkey, you can come with us like this. White-Eyed Wolf waved his paw and opened a space-time passage. He then jumped up and landed on Qin Feiyong's shoulder. Qin Feiyong and Lunatic looked at each other and smiled, then stepped into the space-time passage. Bastard! Princess Huofeng stomped her feet and changed her appearance slightly before following them into the passage. Their consideration is actually very thorough. After all, such a big thing happened on White Crane Island. The people of the Sky Cloud realm already know us. If we appear in front of them like this, it will definitely cause a commotion. Daifuku and Lunatic smiled in appreciation. Compared to Qin Feiyong and the others who had rich experience, the two princesses were still lacking. Northern Continent. Mountains rose and fell, majestic and magnificent. A city called Fengyuan City was located in the center of the northern continent. It was like a king looking down on all directions. According to Master, Fengyuan City is the largest city in the northern continent. If we want to ask for information, it is the best place to come. In front of the city gate, there was a wide road. People came and went in a hurry. Qin Feiyong, Lunatic, and White-Eyed Wolf walked in front. Princess Huofeng and the other four followed behind unhurriedly. As Lunatic walked towards Fengyuan City, he introduced it to Qin Feiyong in a low voice. Qin Feiyong asked curiously, How far is Fengyuan City from Sky Palace? The time is too short, so I didn't ask. But as long as we enter Fengyuan City, it is naturally not difficult to ask about Sky Palace. But why are you interested in Sky Palace? Lunatic looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Sky Palace is the ruler of the northern continent. Since we came to the northern continent, we naturally have to ask about Sky Palace. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. So that's how it is. Lunatic nodded in realization. Suddenly, he frowned and said, Say, that guy asked us to come to the northern continent. Is it related to Sky Palace? I don't know. Qin Feiyong shook his head. That guy is too much. If he has something to say, just say it. Why must we find the answer ourselves? Does he really think that we are like him and have nothing to do every day? White-Eyed Wolf said angrily, What's the use of complaining here? Lunatic rolled his eyes at him. Actually, it was also a headache, because they did not know the young man's intentions. If it was someone else, it would be fine. They could analyze it step by step. But this young man was as unfathomable as the ocean. They could not guess what he was thinking. Soon, the group smoothly entered Fengyuan City. There were guards at the city gate, but they did not check them one by one. After all, compared to the Western continent, Eastern continent, and Southern continent, the Northern continent was the most peaceful place. Inside the city, there was an endless stream of people and carriages. Princess Huofeng and Pyrotechnic Glow were entering a human city for the first time. Everything was new to them. Qin Feiyong and the others did not pay attention to it. They listened and observed their surroundings. Now, what they heard the most was the battle on White Crane Island. I didn't expect it to spread so quickly. Lunatic shook his head. The thing that this world does not lack the most is gossip. White-Eyed Wolf pursed his lips. Fortunately, he had the foresight to change his appearance. Otherwise, he would definitely cause a huge uproar the moment he stepped into Fengyuan City. Brother, look. The ornaments inside are so beautiful. And the clothes over there are so beautiful. Come with me to take a look. Princess Huofeng was like a little girl at this moment. She looked at the dazzling array of shops on both sides of the street. Her eyes were shining. The Daifuka brothers looked helpless. They looked at Qin Feiyong, Lunatic, and White-Eyed Wolf and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, our phoenix nest does not have these things. So no matter what you see, your highnesses will find it fresh. You don't even have these? Your phoenix nest is too boring. Lunatic said. This place is different. The ones living in the phoenix nest are all divine phoenixes. Not to mention strolling around. Even playing around is a waste of time for everyone. Daifuka sighed. So you only know how to cultivate? Lunatic asked. And the two nodded. That's so boring. No matter what you do, you have to strike a balance between work and rest. Lunatic had a look of disdain. This can only mean that everyone's lifestyle is different. Daifuka smiled. Lunatic heard this and turned to look at Princess Huofeng and Lunatic, who ran into the shop. He could not help but have a trace of sympathy on his face. Then, he looked at White-Eyed Wolf and laughed. Brother Wolf, actually this woman is not bad. Do you want to consider her? Of course. These words were said through voice transmission. After all, the Daifuka brothers were at the side. White-Eyed Wolf smiled in disdain and said indifferently, If you like her, then go. Don't blindly matchmake her. If I wasn't already taken, would you have a chance? Lunatic sneered. It's okay. I believe that little fairy won't object to you finding a concubine. White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth. Lunatic's face turned black. I am talking to you about serious matters, and you are talking nonsense with me? Chapter 3594. Madman pointed at the White-Eyed Wolf, looked at Qin Feiyong and said angrily, Do you see that? Do you see that? This child is unteachable. Qin Feiyong patted Madman's shoulder and comforted him. Although I also have the same intention, you can't force things. Look on the bright side. That's right. The emperor is not in a hurry, but the eunuch is. The White-Eyed Wolf dug his nose. I became a eunuch? Madman was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Scram. Suddenly, a shout sounded. Two black-clothed youths hurriedly walked over and pushed away Qin Feiyong and the others. They then walked towards the accessory store without looking back. Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. What's going on? When they came back to their senses, the two had already entered the accessory store. Who is so arrogant? Madman frowned. Qin Feiyong, the White-Eyed Wolf, and the Daifuku brothers also looked suspiciously at the accessory store. Do you see the word heaven on their chests? That's the symbol of the heavenly palace. They are both disciples of the heavenly palace. The surrounding pedestrians also came over and whispered. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. No wonder they were so arrogant. It turned out that they were disciples of the heavenly palace. As the ruler of the northern continent, the disciples of the heavenly palace naturally had unparalleled status and power. No matter who it was, they had to be respectful when they saw them. Not good. They are going to the accessory store of the two highnesses. The Daifuku brothers' faces suddenly changed as they quickly ran towards the accessory store. Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and immediately followed. Accessory store. All the items sold here were handmade items. The store was not very big, but it was full of dazzling items. Princess Huofeng was holding a jade pendant and carefully examining it. Pyrotechnic Glow was also curiously looking at the small items placed on the counter. Other than the siblings, there were more than a dozen young men and women. Most of them were couples. The owner of the shop was an old man. He was dressed in plain clothes, had white hair, and was hunched over. However, he seemed to be in good spirits. He had a polite smile on his face as he kept introducing various items to the customers in the shop. It could be said that the atmosphere in the shop was quite harmonious. However, with the arrival of the two Heavenly Hall's disciples, the customers in the store immediately fell into a panic. One by one, they put down the items in their hands and retreated to the side. Their faces were filled with fear as they looked at the black-clothed young man and the black-clothed young man. The shop owner's expression changed slightly when he saw the two young men. He hurriedly ran in front of them with a flattering smile on his old face. Princess Huofeng raised her head and looked at the two of them. A hint of suspicion flashed across her eyes. Then, she lowered her head and looked at the jade pendant in her hand. She did not recognize the symbol of the Heavenly Palace at all. Moreover, even if they knew each other, they would not care about two mere Sky Palace's disciples. Old man, have you prepared the things we want? The two young men looked at the old man with their noses in the air, looking overbearing. Not yet. The old man stammered, his face filled with fear. What? Not yet? Do you take our words for granted? We said last time that we'll only give you 3 months. Old man, we've already given you enough face by giving you 3 months to prepare. So, don't be so shameless. The two of them immediately roared with hostility when they heard the old man's words. I know, but as you can see, I only have this small shop. Asking me to gather 10 million soul stones in 3 months is really difficult for me. Why don't you give me a few more months? The old man looked at the two of them pleadingly. What? You want us to give you a few more months? The two of them were furious when they heard that. They said in a gloomy voice, let me tell you, you have to give us the 10 million soul stones today. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude and destroying your lousy shop. Qin Feiyong and the others entered the accessory store. They walked to Princess Huofeng and Pyrotechnic Glow and asked suspiciously, what's going on? It seems like they're here to collect their debts. Pyrotechnic Glow shook his head. Of course, this kind of thing couldn't arouse his interest. Besides, it was only right and proper to repay debts. Hearing the two young men's words, the old man's expression changed. He quickly waved his hand and said, You can't destroy it. You can't destroy it. I've already gathered more than 1 million soul stones. Why don't I give it to you first? You only managed to gather more than 1 million soul stones in 3 months? Then how long do we have to wait for the 10 million? The two of them were full of hostility. Sorry. It's all because I'm useless. Please give me a little more time. The old man was already kneeling on the ground and begging. Princess Huofeng put down the jade pendant in her hand. She glanced at the pitiful old man, then at the two arrogant young men. She smiled faintly and said, Old man, how much is this jade pendant? The old man looked at Princess Huofeng and said apologetically, Miss, I'm sorry. Our shop only accepts soul stones. If you're willing, give me 100 soul stones. Normally, transactions were done with divine crystals. Using soul stones here seemed like the old man had no choice but to pay his debts. Okay. Princess Huofeng nodded and looked at Daifuku beside her. She smiled and said, Give him 10 million soul stones? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned, including the two young men. Didn't the shop owner say that he only wanted 100 soul stones? Why did he give 10 million? Qin Feiyong and Madman also looked at each other. When they came back to their senses, they laughed inwardly. This woman is quite kind. Princess Huofeng was clearly helping the old man by doing this. 10 million soul stones was naturally nothing to the eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. But what was precious was her kindness. Miss, you can't. The old man came back to his senses and hurriedly looked at Princess Huofeng. He said, Thank you for your kindness, miss, but I can't accept these soul stones because I don't deserve them. Old man, are you stupid? Someone gave you soul stones, and you didn't want them. Why are you pretending to be virtuous? The two young men sneered. The old man said angrily, I'm not pretending to be virtuous. I'm earning money with my conscience. Can your conscience feed you? The two young men smiled disdainfully and looked at Princess Wolfing. They stretched out their hands and said, He owes us 10 million. Just give it to us. Princess Wolfing glanced at the two, and then looked at Daifuku. Give it to them.
Yes.
Daifuku nodded and was about to take out the soul stones from his interspatial ring. But at this moment, the white-eyed wolf jumped down from Qin Feiyang's shoulder and stopped Daifuku. Daifuku looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf didn't explain. It looked at the two young men and then at the old man. Originally, it didn't intend to pay attention to them. But when it heard the old man say that he was earning money with his conscience, it couldn't help but feel a little confused. Because not everyone could say something like that. So its intuition told it that there was something wrong with this matter. The white-eyed wolf looked at the two young men and asked, How did he owe you 10 million soul stones? Are you asking us?
The two young men were stunned.
Otherwise, the white-eyed wolf picked its nose and said, Who are you? How dare you question us? Do you know what this is? The two young men pointed at the word heaven on their chests and shouted, Yes, it's the symbol of the heavenly palace. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Then how dare you meddle in our business? If you don't want to die, scram. The two young men's eyes flashed with killing intent. The white-eyed wolf raised its eyebrows. How dare they ask it to scram? They must be tired of living. Actually, I'm quite curious too. He's just an ordinary old man. How did he owe you 10 million soul stones? Qin Feiyang stood out and asked with a smile. There are so many nosy people nowadays. Okay, I'll tell you. 3 months ago, his grandson injured us, so he has to compensate us. His grandson can't be found now, so of course we have to ask him for it. The two young men sneered. Hearing this, the old man clenched his fists as if he had something to complain about, but he didn't dare to say it. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. After thinking for a while, he asked in confusion, But you're disciples of the heavenly palace, and your cultivation is quite good. Both of you are half-step imperishable realm. Is his grandson stronger than you? His grandson is also a disciple of the heavenly palace. Of course he's no match for us with real swords and spears, but his grandson is scheming behind our backs. The two young men snorted. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and said with a smile, Then we do have to compensate. It's not like that. The old man seemed to be unable to suppress the anger in his heart and roared with a hoarse voice. Qin Feiyang looked at the old man suspiciously. The old man wanted to say something but stopped, looking at the two young men with fear. Princess Huofeng frowned and said to the old man, Old man, if you're really wronged, you can say it out and let everyone judge. That's right. Justice is in people's hearts. As long as what you say is true, I believe there will be people who will help you get an explanation. Pyrotechnic Glow also nodded. The old man looked at the siblings and pointed at the two young men. He gritted his teeth and said, They're all slandering me. My grandson never attacked them. They were the ones who attacked my grandson, and my grandson seriously injured one of them. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. There really was an injustice. Old man, what nonsense are you talking about? The two young men were furious and glared at the old man. I'm not talking nonsense. The old man angrily roared. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the crowd surrounding the entrance, he painfully said, 3 months ago, my grandson was training outside and inadvertently found a treasure chest. It was originally a very happy thing, but in the end, he was discovered by them and they joined forces to sneak attack my grandson. From the old man's explanation, Qin Feiyang and the others finally understood that it was these two people who were tempted by the wealth and sneak attacked the old man's grandson. However, the old man's grandson was very vigilant and was also a half-step undead realm cultivator. Therefore, even though he was heavily injured, he was still lucky enough to escape. But the two young men were worried that the old man's grandson would take revenge on them, so they chased the old man's grandson and killed him. After that, the two young men didn't feel guilty. Instead, they joined forces and came to blackmail the old man. The old man was alone and didn't have a good cultivation. Plus, the two young men threatened him, so he had to give in. Also, the old man went to the Sky Palace and asked the higher-ups for help, but it was useless. The two young men insisted that the old man's grandson attacked them first, so they had to kill him. Because there was no third person at the scene, no one could prove it. So the higher-ups of the Sky Palace ignored the old man's request. And because there was no evidence, the two young men became more and more arrogant in their blackmail. Chapter 3595. But to this, the two young men didn't admit it. They stared at the old man and shouted, "You're talking nonsense. You're slandering us." "I didn't. Everyone, you must believe me." The old man looked at Qin Feiyang and the others for help. Qin Feiyang frowned. Now that both sides had their own story and there was no solid evidence, they couldn't make a choice. Princess Fire Phoenix asked suspiciously, "Old man, since your grandson was killed at that time, how do you know about it in such detail?" "Because before my grandson died, he sent me a message saying that he was being chased and might not be able to come back alive. I asked him then. He told me the whole situation. I thought he could escape, but I didn't expect." Speaking of this, the old man closed his eyes in pain. After a long silence, he opened his eyes and continued, "Not long after, I checked the Divine Voice Stone and found that my grandson's contract bridge had disappeared. May I ask everyone, if my grandson wasn't killed by them, who killed him?" When he said the last sentence, the old man couldn't help but roar hysterically. "How dare you slander a disciple of the heavenly palace? You're courting death." Hearing this, the two young men's eyes were filled with killing intent, and they slapped at the old man. Whoosh! But at this moment, the white-eyed wolf stepped forward and blocked in front of the old man. It slapped at the two young men with its paw. The two young men were knocked back and blood dripped from the corner of their mouths. "No way! A big fat cat is so strong?" The crowd outside the door was stunned. "Bastard! How dare you attack a disciple of the heavenly palace? You're courting death." The two young men stared at the white-eyed wolf with killing intent. The white-eyed wolf ignored them and looked at Qin Feiyang. It bared its teeth and said, "This is easy to solve. Just read their memories." Qin Feiyang smiled and formed a seal with both hands. Two puppet seals appeared in an instant and sank into the top of the heads of the two young men. The two young men were only at the half-step undead realm. It was too easy to control them. Soon, Qin Feiyang was able to read the crucial memories. "How is it?" White-eyed wolf asked. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "It's exactly as you said." Hearing this, before the white-eyed wolf could say anything, Princess Huofeng was the first to fly into a rage. She shouted, "Bastards! Not only did you kill someone's grandson, you even made up a rumor to blackmail someone's elderly. You guys are worse than animals. Impudent! Who do you think you are? Even if that is the case, do you dare to attack us? You better know your place. The heavenly hall is not something you can offend." The two of them flew into a rage out of humiliation and roared, "What's so great about being a heavenly palace disciple?" Suddenly, a strange voice sounded from the crowd outside. Whoosh! Following closely, a black figure appeared in the shop. This person was dressed in black and had a black skull mask on his face. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a slender body. His entire body was emitting a gloomy and evil aura. "It's him, Master Jura." Seeing this person appear, everyone was shocked. Even the two arrogant disciples of the heavenly hall had fear on their faces. "The disciples of the heavenly hall are really disgusting," the Master Jura said gloomily. He raised his hand and a wisp of the power of law appeared. Like two sharp arrows, it directly penetrated the two young men's eyebrows. Ah! Accompanied by a scream. Their divine souls and heads were shattered on the spot. After killing the two of them, the Master Jura turned around and left without looking back. As for Qin Feiyang and the others, the Master Jura did not even look at them from the beginning to the end. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyong and the others came back to their senses and looked at each other. This person was too fierce. He was even more powerful than them and killed the two disciples of the heavenly hall on the spot. The old man came back to his senses and hurriedly ran to the door. Looking at the Master Jura's back, he shouted, "Thank you, Master Jura. You are a good person." However, the Master Jura did not pay attention to him and disappeared. "Grandson, your revenge has been avenged. You can rest in peace." The old man closed his eyes and muttered with his hands clenched. When he opened his eyes, he turned around and ran to Qin Feiyong and the others. He knelt and said, "Thank you for speaking up for justice. This old man is really unable to repay you." "Old man, please get up. It's nothing. Don't be so polite." Qin Feiyong went forward to help the old man up and comforted him. "I can understand your feelings, but the dead cannot be brought back to life. You must restrain your grief. Moreover, I also believe that your grandson will not want to see you so sad in the underworld." "Yes." The old man nodded and wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. He looked up at Qin Feiyong and smiled. "You are also a good person." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. The madman glanced at the old man and sent a voice transmission. "Old Qin, did you notice the power of law of the Master Jura?" "Yes." Qin Feiyong replied secretly. "That's the law of time. Although I didn't see through his cultivation, he has the law of time and has such courage. It can be seen that he is not an ordinary person." The madman sent a voice transmission. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed as he looked at the old man and asked, "Old man, who is this Master Jura? He seems to be very powerful." "Of course he is. However, no one in the northern continent knows who he is." The old man shook his head. "No one knows?" Qin Feiyong and the others were taken aback as they glanced at the people outside the door. "Indeed, no one knows. That's because he always wears a skull mask. No one has ever seen his true appearance. Moreover, his whereabouts are hard to track. Most importantly, he specializes in killing the disciples of the Sky Hall, especially the disciples of the Sky Hall who bully men and women. Once they encounter him, they will definitely die. So over time, we call him the Masked Azura." The people outside the door began to chatter. "Specializes in killing Heavenly Hall's disciples?" Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at the white-eyed wolf. They thought it was just a coincidence, but they didn't expect there to be so many stories. The old man smiled and said, "Although in the eyes of Heavenly Hall, the Masked Azura is a heinous person, in the eyes of us ordinary people, he is a good person." "A good person," Qin Feiyong murmured. Suddenly, he had a strong interest in this Masked Azura. "Master Jura, you actually dare to come to Fengyuan City to commit murder. Die." Suddenly, a murderous roar rang out. Boom. In the next moment, a powerful aura exploded in the sky. Perfect Dominator Realm. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other and immediately walked out. The crowd at the door also turned around and ran to the street, looking up. When Qin Feiyong and the others entered the street and looked up, they saw a black-haired man rushing over aggressively. His cultivation had reached the perfect Dominator Realm. He is the guard commander of the City Lord Mansion. He must have received the news and came to kill the Master Jura. The old man also followed out and said with a worried expression, "Guard commander." Qin Feiyong frowned and said, "This matter was originally the fault of those two Heavenly Hall disciples. Logically speaking, they shouldn't have attacked the Master Jura, right?" The old man's expression changed and he hurriedly said, "Little brother, you can't say such things casually." Qin Feiyong looked at the old man suspiciously. Although the Master Jura has been doing good deeds, in the eyes of Heavenly Hall, his cultivation is challenging the authority of Heavenly Hall. Heavenly Hall will definitely not tolerate this kind of thing. Therefore, if the people of Heavenly Hall hear you, they will definitely vent their anger on you. The old man sighed. "But isn't this person from the City Lord Mansion?" White-Eyed Wolf asked. "The City Lord Mansion belongs to Heavenly Hall." After the old man finished speaking, he was slightly stunned and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyong and the others. He said, "This is something that everyone knows. Don't you know? We are not from the northern continent." Qin Feiyong smiled. I see. The old man suddenly understood. Whoosh. It was also at this moment. The masked Azura rushed into the sky from the city and looked at the guard commander with a pair of black eyes that were filled with coldness and disgust. Don't even think about escaping this time. Surround him. Following the guard commander's shout, figures from the city below rose into the sky from all directions. They were all guards of the city lord mansion, and the weakest among them was at the half-step sovereign realm. The masked Azura glanced at the guards and then looked at the city below. He then turned around and rushed out of the city. Don't even think about it. 2 guards charged at him from the front. You're courting death. The masked Azura snorted coldly. Following a clang, a 3-foot-long sword appeared. This long sword was blood-red as if it was dyed in blood. It emitted a monstrous, murderous aura. As the masked Azura slashed with his sword, a blood-red sword chi surged out like a tide. The 2 guards screamed on the spot as their blood splattered across the sky. That's a supreme-grade, heaven-defying divine artifact. Lunatic muttered. This person was truly merciless when dealing with people from the Sky Palace. After carving out a path of blood, the masked Azura rushed out of the city without looking back and entered the mountains outside the city. Chase. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. If he's alive, I want to see him. The guard commander shouted. A group of people chased into the mountains. Let's go take a look, Qin Feiyong said, and Lunatic nodded. Don't go. The old man hurriedly stopped Qin Feiyong. What? Qin Feiyong didn't understand. The old man said, if you go now, the people from the city lord mansion will definitely think that you are the masked Azura's accomplices. At that time, they won't let you go. Qin Feiyong and Lunatic looked at each other and smiled. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you for your concern. We'll meet again. After saying that, the group soared into the sky and disappeared outside the city. Wait, I haven't paid for this jade pendant yet. Princess Wuffing suddenly patted her head and said while looking at the jade pendant in her hand. Do you think that if you give him the soul stone now, he will still want it? Madman chuckled. Princess Wuffing was stunned and couldn't help but smile. The human world was really interesting. Then, she wore the jade pendant on her white neck. Although it was just an ordinary jade pendant, it added a bit of charm on her neck. There are still good people in this world. Thank you. At the same time, the old man stood in the crowd, looking at the direction where Qin Feiyong and the others disappeared and muttered to himself. Chapter 3596. Outside the city, deep in the mountains, Qin Feiyong's group was moving as fast as lightning. When they arrived above a valley, they immediately stopped and looked at the valley below with shock. There were dozens of corpses lying in the valley below. The heads of the corpses were smashed and blood stained the ground. Although they didn't have heads, from their attire and figure, it was clear that they were a group of guard commanders. What's going on? Madman looked at this scene in shock. Were they killed by the masked Azura? But this speed was too fast. When he came back to his senses, Madman immediately released his divine sense and spread it in all directions. But within the range of his divine sense, apart from many fierce beasts in the distance, there was no trace of the masked Azura. This is impossible, Madman muttered with a face full of disbelief. What's impossible? The white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. Madman said, based on our current speed, even if he's a sovereign at the perfection realm, it's impossible for him to escape from under our noses so quickly. There is indeed a problem. This guard and his group of people were all killed in an instant. The guards are perfect rulers and must have many methods, but they were instantly killed. It seems that this person's strength is beyond our imagination. Could this be the reason why the youth had us come to the northern continent? Qin Feiyong frowned. The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned and asked, You mean that the youth wanted us to investigate the masked Azura's true identity? No. With the youth's strength and methods, if he really knows of the masked Azura's existence, then he must have seen his true face. Qin Feiyong shook his head. That's true. No matter how strong this masked Azura is, he can't escape the youth's investigation. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and waved his hand. This is just my guess. The youth's goal in bringing us to the northern continent isn't the Mas de Jura. This bastard. What does he want us to do in the northern continent? The white-eyed wolf was incomparably angry. He had no clue at all. Madman suddenly asked, could it be the Sky Palace? Sky Hall? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. Yes. In the entire northern continent, only the Heavenly Palace can pique the interest of this young man. Madman said. This. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf fell silent. Although what the madman said made sense, there was no way to confirm it. Princess Wolfing looked at the two people and the wolf who were at a loss. She couldn't help but ask, who exactly is this young man you're talking about? You can't remember? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The white-eyed wolf glared at her angrily. Princess Wolfing was instantly enraged. She was just asking out of curiosity. Was there a need to be so fierce? Your Highness, calm down, calm down. We are civilized people. Don't bother with it. When the Daifuku brothers saw this, they hurriedly comforted him. Wait a moment. I wonder if you guys have noticed a problem? Suddenly, Pyrotechnic Glow spoke from the side. What problem? Everyone couldn't help but look at Pyrotechnic Glow. Since this Mas de Jura has the ability to instantly kill a group of guards, why didn't he just do it in Fengyuan City? You want to lure the guard commander and his men here? Pyrotechnic Glow asked. Yes. There's no need for him to do that. Because he can instantly kill these people, there's no need to worry about harming the innocent citizens of Fengyuan City. The white-eyed wolf slapped his head and exclaimed, is it because he's trying to hide something? Hide something? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. Yes, he's definitely trying to hide something. But what exactly is he trying to hide? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and looked at the white-eyed wolf and Pyrotechnic Glow. If it's really as you said, then he should be hiding his killing method, such as a powerful law profound. In other words, he's afraid of others seeing his killing method. If others see it, they might be able to guess his identity. Madman asked. Yes, that must be the case. The white-eyed wolf nodded with certainty and analyzed. Brother guesses that this Mas de Jura must be very famous in the northern continent. He's afraid that others will see through his identity, so he doesn't dare to act recklessly in front of others. It's just a guess. You make it sound like it's true. Princess Wolfing pursed her lips. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Just as the two were about to quarrel again, an angry voice suddenly sounded from behind them. You actually killed the guard commander. You really are in cahoots with the Mas de Jura. Qin Feiyang and the others hurriedly turned around and saw a guard standing in the void not far away, looking at them in horror. This misunderstanding is a bit big, Pyrotechnic Glow muttered, a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. It was obvious that this guard had just arrived. Seeing the guard commander and the others die in the valley, he naturally thought that it was the work of Qin Feiyang and the others. Whoosh! But before Pyrotechnic Glow could do anything, the guard turned around and fled toward Fengyuan City without looking back. Daifuku, kill him. Pyrotechnic Glow no longer concealed the murderous intent in his eyes. No need. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Why? Aren't you someone who hates trouble? I am helping you solve your problem. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Just think about it. Once the guard reported this misunderstanding to the Grand Chieftain's residence, and the Grand Chieftain's residence reported it to the Sky Palace, what would happen then? They would be hunted down all over the lands. The purpose of the young man asking me to come to the northern continent is a little hard to fathom. So, why don't we create a bigger ruckus and see if anyone comes looking for us? Moreover, I would like to meet the big shots of the Sky Palace. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Do as you wish. Hearing that, Pyrotechnic Glow shrugged and went over to the white-eyed wolf and said with a chuckle, Wolf cub? No, 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 Big Brother Wolf, just tell me, what wine did you give to Yun Zhongtian? Big Brother? Is he that close to you? Don't try to make connections. The white-eyed wolf kicked Pyrotechnic Glow away in disdain. The group returned to Fengyuan City. The madman was silent along the way. Who knows what he was thinking? When Fengyuan City came into sight, the madman transmitted his voice. Old Qin, is there a possibility that the young man's purpose is for us to take over the Sky Palace and use it for our own use? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. Now, in the four continents, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Palace are on good terms with us. The Temple of Gods has submitted to us. Now, the only one left is the Sky Palace. If we take over the Sky Palace, apart from the four Forbidden Lands and the Sky Cloud Sea, the entire Sky Cloud realm is basically under our control, the madman secretly said. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and transmitted his voice. Hearing what you said, it does make some sense. Actually, whether the young man means it or not, I feel that we should take over the Sky Palace. In the future, when the Land of Source gives birth to a few sovereign divine weapons, and when Pei Tianhong and the others become super experts, we who control the four continents will have the ability to compete with the four Forbidden Lands. The madman secretly laughed. Compete with them? Qin Feiyong murmured. Now, on the surface, the Sky Cloud realm was controlled by the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Demon Palace, the Temple of Gods, and the Sky Palace. But in reality, the ones who truly controlled the Sky Cloud realm were the four Forbidden Lands and the Sky Cloud Sea. Any one of these forces was enough to flatten the Sky Cloud realm. Compared to these behemoths, the humans living in the four continents were too weak. The human race. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong's body trembled and stopped in the void. His face was faintly pale. What's wrong? The madman and the others looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Qin Feiyong didn't speak for a long time, which made the white-eyed wolf and the madman anxious. After a long time, Qin Feiyong looked up at Princess Wolfing and said, "You guys enter the city first. I have some private matters to discuss with the white-eyed wolf and senior brother." Although the words were plain, it carried a majesty that couldn't be disobeyed. It gave people a kind of pressure from the soul, making them involuntarily obey. After Princess Wolfing and the others left, the madman frowned and said, "What are you doing? Don't scare us." I suddenly thought of a problem. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked into the distance. His eyes were incomparably deep and carried a trace of sadness. One man and one wolf looked at each other and asked, "What problem? Didn't you notice a situation? The Sky Cloud Sea is the base camp of the sea beasts. The Heavy Region and the Een Demon Land are the base camps of the dragons and the Feng people. The other two Forbidden Lands, if nothing goes wrong, must be the base camp of some kind of divine beast. The strength of these five Forbidden Lands far surpasses the four continents." Qin Feiyong said, "Is there a problem?" The madman was suspicious. "There shouldn't be a problem." The white-eyed wolf followed and said. Qin Feiyong shook his head, took a deep breath, and said in a deep voice, "The problem is that we humans live in the eastern, western, northern, and southern continents." Yes. The madman nodded and asked puzzledly, "But what's the problem?" "Any one of the five Forbidden Lands can crush the four continents. Is there no problem?" "Do you know what this means?" "This means that we humans have no right to speak in the Sky Cloud realm. The ones who truly control the Sky Cloud realm are the five Forbidden Lands. Facing the five Forbidden Lands, we humans are as insignificant as ants. We can only be described as lowly." Qin Feiyong said. The madman and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but be shocked when they heard this. Although they had been in the Sky Cloud realm for so many years, they really didn't realize this point. Now that they heard Qin Feiyong say this, it really was the case. Putting aside all the grudges in the secular world, all humans belong to one race, and that is the human race. The human race, the dragons, the Feng people, the sea beasts, and the mysterious races of the other two Forbidden Lands. In other words, there are a total of 6 races in the Sky Cloud realm. The human race is the weakest among them. If one day in the future, the other 5 races want to make a move on the human race of the Sky Cloud realm will inevitably face the disaster of extinction. Such a scene, just thinking about it, Qin Feiyong, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. Chapter 3597. The white-eyed wolf said in surprise, Do you think this is the young man's intention? He wants us to become the leaders of the human race and work hard to lead the human race to glory and fight against the four forbidden lands? Qin Feiyong and Madman were stunned. Become the leaders of the human race? They could fight against the four forbidden lands, but to become the leaders of the human race, this seemed to be giving them too much credit. Although they were quite strong now, they knew their limits. They didn't have the qualifications to become the leaders of the human race. However, perhaps this was the young man's intention. Headache. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't understand the young man's thoughts. Who cares? After all, we've already conquered the western, eastern, and southern continents. It won't take much time to conquer the northern continent. Madman chuckled. Qin Feiyong glanced at Madman and shook his head. I really don't have that ambition. It's just one more ally, one more way to survive. Let's make a trip to the Sky Palace and see what the giants of the Sky Palace want. But before he finished, boom! Terrifying auras suddenly exploded in the sky above the city. Qin Feiyong, Madman, and the white-eyed wolf were shocked. They immediately looked up and saw a dozen figures soar into the sky and surround Princess Huofeng and the others. The leader was a middle-aged man. He was about 1.9 meters tall and emitted a valiant aura. One of them was the guard that had escaped before. What are you doing? Daifuku and Xiaofu protected the siblings and looked at the dozen people with gloomy expressions. The guard pointed at the four people and said angrily, City Lord, they're the ones who killed the guard commander. The middle-aged man's eyes darkened as he sized up Princess Huofeng and the others. Two mere perfected dominators. Two perfected dominators dared to kill the people of the City Lord's mansion? They must be the masked Azura's accomplices. Capture them and interrogate them. We'll definitely find the masked Azura's whereabouts. A person beside the middle-aged man walked out, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. This was an old man in a black robe. He was emaciated and had sunken eyes. His eyes were like those of a snake, and they shone with a cold light. As the black-robed old man finished speaking, the others also erupted with powerful auras. Apart from the guard, all of them were perfection sovereign realm experts. If I tell you now that we're not the masked Azura's accomplices, you definitely won't believe me. Since that's the case, then let's cut the crap and bring it on. Pyrotechnic Glow glanced at the dozen or so people and sneered, arrogant. The black-robed old man was furious. He waved his arm and shouted, take him down. The dozen or so people surrounding them immediately pounced on the four of them. You overestimate yourself. Daifuku snorted coldly and stretched out his arm. The surrounding space immediately collapsed and turned into ice fragments that emitted a monstrous sharpness. In just an instant, the bodies of more than 10 people were pierced by the ice fragments. They were like sieves as blood gushed out. The middle-aged man and the black-robed old man retreated in shock. The law of space-time, the ultimate profundity. They never expected that the other party was hiding an ultimate expert. Although Fengyuan City was the largest city in the northern continent, it was not the headquarters of the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, the city lord overseeing Fengyuan City was an ordinary perfection sovereign realm expert. How could an ordinary perfect sovereign realm expert not panic when facing a supreme expert who had grasped the supreme profundities of the space-time laws? When they came back to their senses, the middle-aged man and the black-robed old man turned around and began to flee without looking back. Daifuku's eyes were full of contempt. His large hand was like an eagle's claw as it grabbed in the direction the two of them fled. The void collapsed, and the law of space-time roared in all directions. The black-robed old man screamed and died on the spot. The middle-aged man stood there, terrified. He trembled as if he was waiting for death. Daifuku would definitely not show mercy to those who wanted to harm Princess Huofeng and Pyrotechnic Glow. The law of space-time surged. The middle-aged man also screamed as his blood splattered in the sky. Seeing this scene, the people in the city below were dumbfounded. Even the city lord was killed without any hesitation. These people's guts were too big. Qin Feiyong, the middle-aged man, and the white-eyed wolf stepped on the air and landed beside Princess Huofeng and the other three. The white-eyed wolf looked at the guard and asked, "Where is the heavenly palace?" Although this guard's cultivation was very weak, he had already retreated far away when the black-robed old man gave the order. Therefore, he escaped death. Tian, 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 Tian. The guard looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and stammered, unable to say a word for a long time. Obviously, he was deeply shocked by Daifuku's methods. Tian, Tian, your sister, hurry up, or I'll kill you. The white-eyed wolf glared fiercely. The guard quivered and hurriedly told Qin Feiyang and the others the coordinates. After Qin Feiyang and the others left, the guard immediately collapsed in the void, cold sweat breaking out all over his body. Shouldn't they have escaped? Why are they still going to the heavenly palace? Isn't he a little too bold? They have mastered the law of space-time's supreme profundity. How can they not be bold? The law of space-time's supreme profundity is very strong, but can it be stronger than a sovereign weapon? Don't forget that the heavenly palace doesn't only have a sovereign weapon. The few big shots are also supreme existences who have mastered the law of space-time's supreme profundity. Running to the heavenly palace like this is a dead end. Also, are they the masked Azura's accomplices? Judging from your words, you seem to be very dissatisfied with the masked Azura. Am I? I'm just saying. Don't get agitated. Humph. Regardless of whether it's them or the masked Azura, regardless of whether they're in cahoots with the masked Azura, they're all good people. Everyone was discussing. From this, it could be seen that the masked Azura's reputation in the northern continent was quite good. It was actually a little hard to imagine. Azura was usually the epitome of ruthlessness and cold-bloodedness, but now, the masked Azura was so respected by the people of the northern continent that it was more like the epitome of justice. Northern continent. Northern region. There was an endless stretch of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the mountains, the giant peaks pierced into the clouds like giant swords. The towering ancient trees appeared to be incomparably bold and vigorous. This place was called the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range. It was said that there were exactly 10,000 huge peaks here. In the central region of the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range, huge palaces floated in the sky. When one looked up, they were scattered all over like stars in the sky, shining with divine light and emitting a magnificent aura. In the center of the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range, there was a huge peak that was thousands of feet tall. At the peak of the mountain, there was a stone staircase that led to the sky, leading to an ancient palace at the top of the sky. Next to the stone staircase that led to the sky, there was a stone tablet that was hundreds of feet tall. There were two big words engraved on it. Heavenly Palace. An old man was sitting cross-legged under the stone tablet. This person had white hair and a white beard. He was wearing a white robe and his eyes were slightly closed. He had a peaceful expression and exuded an immortal aura. Whoosh! Suddenly, a group of people landed in front of the huge peak. It was Qin Feiyang and the others. It's so grand. Looking at the heavenly palace in front of them, Qin Feiyang, the other two, and the white-eyed wolf were all shocked. Even First Princess Wufeng and the other three had a trace of surprise on their faces. This is the forbidden area of the heavenly palace. Please leave quickly. A hoarse voice sounded. The one who spoke was the white-robed old man at the peak of the mountain. However, he didn't open his eyes. His voice didn't have any killing intent, but it contained an irresistible majesty. This is an omnipotent expert. Daifuku looked at the white-robed old man and whispered, "An omnipotent expert?" Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned and couldn't help but look at the white-robed old man curiously. In the Sky Cloud realm, those who could be called omnipotent experts were only those who had mastered the ultimate profound. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Then can you tell if he has mastered the ultimate profound of an ordinary law or the ultimate profound of an omnipotent law?" Daifuku shook his head. Before the power of the law was activated, no aura could be felt. So, only when the other party activated the law could they determine what kind of law the other party had mastered. Qin Feiyang landed on the peak of the mountain with a trace of respect on his face. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior, this junior has something to see the heavenly palace master. I hope that Senior can report to him. Madman and the others also landed beside Qin Feiyang. Looking at Qin Feiyang's humble attitude, the Daifuku brothers were quite impressed. With Qin Feiyang's current cultivation, even if this white-haired old man had mastered the ultimate profound of an omnipotent law, he didn't need to lower himself at all. Because of Qin Feiyang's strength, he could be called the #1 person in the human race, so there was no problem even if he called the other party's name. But Qin Feiyang still regarded himself as a junior. From this, it could be seen that this was a very cultivated young man. The white-robed old man slowly opened his eyes and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang and the others. Because Qin Feiyang and the others had deliberately concealed their aura, the white-haired old man couldn't see their depth. However, whether it was Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, or Princess Huofeng and the other three, they all exuded an extraordinary temperament. Moreover, their expressions were extremely calm. Although their expressions were humble, they weren't humble. One had to know. This was the Sky Palace. Normally, when one came here, not to mention being so calm, they probably didn't even have the courage to speak. But these people in front of him were neither humble nor overbearing and were calm. Their identities were definitely not simple. You are. The white-robed old man was suspicious. Junior. Qin Feiyang was about to speak. Elder Wang, be careful. Suddenly, a cry of alarm sounded. For young men and women rushed over from afar and landed beside the white-robed old man. What's wrong? The white-robed old man looked at the four of them in confusion. These four people were all disciples of the Sky Palace. Their figures were tall and straight, and their auras were extraordinary. At this moment, the four of them coldly looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said in a deep voice, Elder Wang, they just killed the city lord, the guard commander, and others in Fengyuan City. Their methods are extremely ruthless. It can't be. Elder Wang was surprised. We saw it with our own eyes. When we saw them asking for the coordinates of the Sky Palace, we immediately rushed back. I didn't expect that they would really come to our Sky Palace. After the four of them finished speaking, they looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and berated in a stern voice. You guys are really bold. Not only did you kill the city lord and others in public, but you also came to the Sky Palace to cause trouble. Do you really think that the Sky Palace is a place where you can behave atrociously? Chapter 3598. What? The white-robed old man's expression changed when he heard that. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and asked, Is what they said true? That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wang, did you see that? He admitted it himself. He's simply lawless. The four young men and women said angrily. Elder Wang looked at the four of them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and asked, Why did you kill them? You're a reasonable old man. You didn't attack them directly. Otherwise, you'd be lying on the ground as a corpse now. The madman chuckled. How dare you? How dare you speak so arrogantly in front of Elder Wang? Do you know Elder Wang's identity in the Heavenly Palace? The four young men shouted angrily. Princess Huofeng frowned and said with a smile, Do you know who we are? You? The four of them looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and sneered, I don't care who you are. If you dare to provoke the Heavenly Palace, you'll die. Very well. Princess Huofeng nodded. When the Daifuku brothers saw that, killing intent surged in their eyes. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and stopped the two of them. He looked at Elder Wang and said with a smile, We're not here to cause trouble. Please help us report this to the Heavenly Palace. One of the young men shouted, You killed the city governor and the others in front of everyone, and you're saying that you're not here to cause trouble? Are you kidding? You seem to have a lot to say. Do you think that we won't dare to teach you a lesson because you're backed by the Heavenly Palace? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Try me if you dare. The young man looked at the white-eyed wolf provocatively. He did not believe that these people would dare to attack him here. The Heavenly Palace was above. The Heavenly Palace was the ruler of the northern continent. As a disciple of the Heavenly Palace, of course, he had the confidence. Try me if you dare, the white-eyed wolf muttered. As the power of law appeared, he instantly appeared in front of the four young men. This is Elder Wang's eyes narrowed. He looked at the four of them and shouted, "Retreat!" But it was too late. The white-eyed wolf swung its claws, and the four of them immediately let out a miserable cry. Their bodies exploded in the void, and their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Only their souls were left. Elder Wang. The four divine souls panicked and hid behind Elder Wang. Their faces were filled with fear. This is the first time I've met someone who took the initiative to ask for a beating. Now that I've made my move, what next? The white-eyed wolf stood opposite Elder Wang and looked at the four of them mockingly. The four of them were terrified. He had never imagined that the other party would be so bold as to brazenly make a move in the Sky Palace. Elder Wang glanced at the white-eyed wolf before looking at Qin Feiyang and the others. There was a hint of fear in his eyes as he said, "Even a cat has mastered the supreme profundity of the law of time. You must be extraordinary." What? It actually grasps the supreme profundity of the laws of time. The divine souls of the four young men and women could not help but tremble. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Senior, you'll know who we are later. Now, please report to the Sky Palace. Otherwise, we'll have to force our way into the Sky Palace." "There's no need for that. We're here in person." As soon as Qin Feiyang finished speaking, a cold voice was heard above the Sky Palace. Qin Feiyang and the others raised their heads and saw two men and a woman descending from the sky like three divine kings. Their auras were unfathomable. The woman leading the group was around 30 years old. She was wearing a palace dress and had taken good care of herself. There was not a single wrinkle at the corner of her eyes. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and there was a great sense of authority between her brows. Behind her were two middle-aged men. One was wearing a white robe, while the other was wearing a black robe. They both looked to be in their 30s. The white-robed middle-aged man had a slender figure and a gentle smile on his face. Coupled with his elegant temperament, he gave off a harmless feeling. The black-robed middle-aged man was like a sharp sword, emitting a threatening aura. His dark eyes, in particular, were filled with a piercing sharpness. "Greetings, Lord Temple Masters. Lord Temple Masters, you must uphold justice for your disciples." The four young men and women immediately ran over and knelt in front of the three, looking aggrieved. "You may leave." The woman in the palace dress waved her hand. The four stood up and retreated to the side. Then, they looked at Qin Feiyang and the others with resentment in their eyes. "Why are you all here?" Elder Wang turned to the three of them and asked. The woman in the palace dress said calmly, "An ultimate powerhouse who has grasped the supreme profundity of the laws of time has arrived in the northern continent. How can we not come out to see for ourselves?" Obviously, they had already received news of what happened in Fengyuan City. The laws of time? Elder Wang could not help but be stunned. He turned to the white-eyed wolf and frowned. "Isn't it the laws of time?" "That's not it." The woman in the palace dress raised her head and looked at Daifuku. A cold glint flashed in her eyes as she smiled. "Your Excellency is really impressive in Fengyuan City. You killed the people of the Heavenly Palace just like that." Daifuku said calmly, "I've already warned them. They were the ones who asked for it." "So, it's our fault for killing the people of the Heavenly Palace? Now that you've come to the Heavenly Palace, do you want us to apologize to you?" The woman in the palace dress asked. "I'm not interested in the Heavenly Palace. It's not my idea to come to the Heavenly Palace." "It's Qin." Daifuku was about to say Qin Feiyang's name, but he suddenly realized that Qin Feiyang was deliberately hiding his identity. So, he changed his words and said, "It's this brother who wants to come to the Heavenly Palace." For a moment, Elder Wang, the woman in the palace dress, and the two middle-aged men all looked at Qin Feiyang. "May I ask who the three seniors are?" Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and asked with a smile. The middle-aged man in black's eyes turned cold as he shouted without mercy, "You're not qualified to know our identity." Qin Feiyang was stunned. There was no need to be so arrogant. Swoosh! Suddenly, two figures appeared out of thin air on the side of the mountain peak. Qin Feiyang turned his head and frowned slightly. It was the guard from before and the old man from the jewelry store. A cold light flashed in the madman's eyes as he looked at the guard and said, "What did you do to the old man?" Facing the madman's gaze, the fear on the guard's face became even stronger. The old man also had a face of fear. "We ordered him to bring it here." The middle-aged man in black said, "What do you mean?"
The madman looked at the middle-aged man in black and asked,
"Not long ago, when the subordinates sent us a message to report this matter, we already asked in detail. The cause of this matter is the death of his grandson. We just want to know, why are you so sure that it was the other two disciples of the heavenly palace who attacked his grandson?" The woman in the palace dress said, "On what basis?" "On the basis that we can read their thoughts." The madman said, "Read their memories? Let's not talk about whether you have such means or not. In this situation, your side of the story has no credibility, because no one knows the truth. In other words, even if you really read their memories, it doesn't prove that what you said is true." The woman in the palace dress said indifferently. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, "The key is that we didn't lie." The middle-aged man in black said with disdain, "If you say you didn't lie, then you didn't lie. May I ask who you are?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. "Sirs, please be clear about this. These little brothers are really not lying. It's true that they were tempted by money and sneak attacked my grandson. They even came to blackmail this old man." When the old man saw that Qin Feiyong and the others were wronged, he quickly looked at the woman in the palace dress and pointed at Elder Wang, saying anxiously, "During this period, I came to the heavenly palace several times, but I was stopped by this lord. He doesn't believe my words." Elder Wang sighed, "If you have evidence, this old man will definitely stand up for you. But if you can't, what can this old man do? I can't let you enter the heavenly palace to mess around. That's the truth. If you don't believe me, I swear to the heavens. If there's even half a lie, I'll be destroyed by the heavens and die a horrible death." The old man was burning with anxiety. Heske, who wouldn't swear? In my opinion, it's nothing more than the death of his grandson and no one to take care of him. So, he wants to extort some money to solve the problem of his retirement in the future. As for these people, they must be the accomplices he invited to put on this show with him. The four young men and women looked at the old man and Qin Feiyong with sneers on their faces. "White-eyed wolf, kill them." Qin Feiyong's eyes turned cold. His physical body had already been destroyed by the white-eyed wolf, but he still didn't know how to restrain himself. It seemed that he wouldn't shed tears until he saw the coffin. "I've been waiting for you to say that." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. He activated the moment of time and appeared behind the four people in an instant, slapping out with his claws. "How dare you?" The middle-aged man in black was furious, but the white-eyed wolf turned a deaf ear to him. As his claws fell, the four people screamed and their divine souls were annihilated on the spot. Following that, the white-eyed wolf looked at the middle-aged man in black with disdain. He activated the moment of time and instantly landed on Qin Feiyong's shoulder. "You're courting death." The middle-aged man in black's eyes surged with killing intent. A wave of the law of destruction emerged and rushed toward the white-eyed wolf. "You're the ones courting death." The madman's killing intent erupted. He activated the law of destruction and blasted out. Boom! The two's law of destruction collided with a loud bang. A terrifying wave instantly swept out in all directions. The guard and the old man had a look of horror on their faces. This was the fluctuation of the law of destruction. Moreover, it was from two perfected sovereigns. How could small fries like them withstand it? However, at the same time, the Daifuku brothers took action and forcefully suppressed the fluctuation. Seeing this scene, not only the guard and the old man, but even the woman in palace attire, the middle-aged man in white, and Elder Wang heaved a sigh of relief. If this fluctuation were to spread out, the entire Myriad Peak Mountain would probably be razed to the ground. But then, the woman in palace attire, the middle-aged man in white, and Elder Wang couldn't help but look at the madman. Law of destruction. Who exactly were these people? One controlled the law of space and time. One controlled the law of time. One controlled the law of destruction. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and looked at the woman in palace attire and the other three. He sighed and said, We really have no intention of causing trouble, so please don't be so aggressive. The woman in palace attire glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others, then looked at the old man who was caught by the guard. Finally, she looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Then tell us, why should we believe your words? If you can't explain it clearly, then don't even think about leaving the heavenly palace alive today." As the woman in palace attire's voice fell, a reddish gold bead appeared. It was the size of a baby's fist. There were complicated and mysterious patterns engraved on it. It looked like the totem of a divine beast, the golden crow, and its divine light illuminated the world. As soon as this divine bead appeared, the pressure of a sovereign divine weapon rolled out and instantly enveloped Qin Feiyong and the others. Obviously, this was the sovereign divine weapon of the heavenly palace. Why? Qin Feiyong glanced at the reddish gold divine bead without the slightest fear. Then, he looked at the woman in palace attire, and a terrifying pressure gradually emerged from his body. He said word by word, "Because I, Qin Feiyong, am called Sovereign Divine Weapon." Chapter 3599. Qin Feiyong. As soon as these three words came out, the eyes of the leaders of the heavenly palace trembled. The guards and the old man not far away were also shocked. If one were to talk about who was the most famous in the current Sky Cloud realm, it would undoubtedly be Qin Feiyong. He was someone who had destroyed the Blood Palace, crushed the first prince of the dragons, killed the fire dragon, and looked down on all the heroes in the world. There were countless young talents in the world who were unreachable and dazzling in front of others, but in front of Qin Feiyong, they had to lower their proud heads. You could not know who the leaders of the heavenly palace were, and you could not know the existence of the dragons and the foam people, but you could not know the name Qin Feiyong. Just based on the three words, I, Qin Feiyong, these three words definitely had the power to convince everyone. However, the person in front of them looked completely different from Qin Feiyong. At the same time, many people walked out of the palaces floating in the sky. There were disciples and managers of the heavenly palace. At this moment, they were all looking down at Qin Feiyong and the others. After all, even the sovereign divine weapon had appeared. How could they not be alarmed? Their faces were also filled with shock. Is this person really Qin Feiyong? He looks so impressive. You haven't seen Qin Feiyong before? Even if you haven't seen him, you should have seen his portrait. His portrait is circulating everywhere now. Take a look. I have a portrait of him here. A young woman waved her hand, and a scroll painting appeared. It floated in the void and then slowly opened. The eyes of the surrounding people were focused on the scroll painting. They were filled with anticipation. Soon, the scroll painting opened and two people and a wolf appeared. The person on the left was a young man in white. He was 7 feet tall, and his black hair was like a waterfall. His eyes were bright like the moon, and he had a faint smile on his face. He was like a god and exuded an ethereal aura. The person on the right was a black-clothed youth. His facial features were grave and stern, and there was an invisible bone-piercing sharpness that made people feel a sense of fear in their hearts. A wolf was lying in front of the two of them. This wolf's fur was as dazzling as gold. There were 2 golden wings on its back, and there was a mysterious flame mark between its eyebrows. It looked incomparably majestic. Did you see that? This white-clothed youth is Qin Feiyong. This black-clothed youth is Madman Mo. The wolf lying in front of them is the golden-winged wolf king. Look at those people down there. Which one looks like them? When the young woman opened the scroll and spoke, she looked at the figure in the picture with stars in her eyes. Hearing this, everyone looked down. Indeed, there was no one who looked like Qin Feiyong, Madman Mo, or Golden-Winged Wolf King. Aren't they a little too bold? They even dare to pretend to be Qin Feiyong. It seems that they don't know Qin Feiyong's methods. Some people couldn't help but sneer. Below, at the peak of the mountain, there was dead silence. Suddenly, the black-clothed middle-aged man opened his mouth and broke the silence. Do you think we have never seen Qin Feiyong before? But before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyong directly took out a facial restoration pill and threw it into his mouth. Very quickly, Under everyone's surprised gaze, his true appearance was restored. It's really him. The black-clothed middle-aged man's gaze trembled. It's really Qin Feiyong. So he changed his appearance before. Come and see. The famous Qin Feiyong of the Sky Cloud Realm has come to our Sky Palace. What? Qin Feiyong has come to our Sky Palace? Impossible. How could such a big shot like him come to our Sky Palace? I'm not lying to you. It's really him. Previously, there were still many disciples who had not come out of seclusion. When they heard the news, they all ran out in disbelief. In the end, it was really this famous existence. Since Qin Feiyong is here, then are Madman Emo and the Golden-Winged Wolf King also here? Wait, the big fat cat on Qin Feiyong's shoulder has activated the supreme profound of the law of time, and the young man next to it has also activated the law of destruction. It is said that the Golden-Winged Wolf King has mastered the law of time, and Madman Emo has also mastered the law of destruction. Could it be the two of them? The eyes of the disciples in the sky fell on the madman and the white-eyed wolf. The madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and smiled. The madman took a facial restoration pill, and the white-eyed wolf's entire body also emitted a dazzling golden light. Soon, they also restored their true appearances. As expected, the disciples of the Sky Palace couldn't help but become excited. This was their idol, Qin Feiyong, who has mastered the supreme profound of two supreme laws, has the eye of heaven that can replicate some attacks, and has a supreme killing technique comparable to a sovereign divine weapon, Slaughter Domain. The madman, who has an arrogant and unruly personality, also has mastered the supreme profound of two supreme laws, and also has a heaven-defying battle soul. He has the ability to reach the heavens. The Golden-Winged Wolf King. This guy is even more ridiculously strong. He has actually mastered the supreme profound of 5 supreme laws. These 2 people and 1 wolf can be said to be the current Sky Cloud Realm's existence. Even the giants of the older generation of the various continents have to bow their heads in front of them. It can be said that they are already standing at the peak of the 4 continents, and no one can shake them. I didn't expect them to be so popular in the human world. Daifuku transmitted his voice. What's so great about them? Princess Huofeng pursed her lips. Daifuku laughed and transmitted his voice. Then do we have to restore our original appearances? You want to steal their limelight? Princess Huofeng secretly asked. Daifuku was slightly taken aback and hurriedly said, This old man has never thought of that. Princess Huofeng rolled her eyes at him and raised her head to look at the disciples of Sky Palace above. Are these humans fools? They actually treat these 3 wicked people as their idols? After a while, the woman in palace attire finally came back to her senses and cupped her hands with a smile. So it's Brother Qin, Brother Emo, and Brother Wolf King. Sorry for the disrespect. Don't say such polite words. If it weren't for you forcing us, would we have revealed our true appearances? It's really hard to keep a low profile. How about it? Do you believe me now? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Since it's the 3 of you, then it must be true. The woman in palace attire smiled and put away the golden divine pearl. What a joke. The madman alone has 8 sovereign divine weapons, and the Sky Palace only has 1 sovereign divine weapon. Isn't it showing off in front of an expert? Fortunately, these people are more reasonable, otherwise, Sky Palace would be in big trouble this time. For example, if people like the Prince and Princess Dragons dared to offend them, they would definitely raise Sky Palace to the ground. So it's them who helped me. The old man who was caught by the guard muttered to himself. He had long heard that these 2 people and 1 wolf were kind and sincere. Now that he saw them, they were indeed worthy of their reputation. Good people. At the same time, the guard was also terrified to the extreme. He had actually provoked these 3 ferocious people again and again. Isn't this courting death? The madman stared at the guard and shouted, Why aren't you letting go of that old man? The guard quivered and quickly let go of the old man. He knelt in the air and said, 3 lords, please spare me. I really didn't know it was you. Otherwise, even if I had 100 guts, I wouldn't dare to do this. Scram. The madman waved his hand and the guard immediately scrambled to the side. Old man, are you all right? The madman stepped forward and helped the old man up. I'm fine. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Lord Sheen. Thank you, Lord Wolf King. It's you who helped my grandson clear his name. Thank you very much. The old man knelt in the air and kowtowed repeatedly. This is what we should do. The white-eyed wolf stepped forward and waved his claw. A large pile of soul stones and divine crystals appeared, like 2 mountains. There were at least tens of millions of them. He then opened a space-time passage and said, "These soul stones and divine crystals are enough for you to retire. Go back first." Quite generous, Princess Huofeng muttered. "I can't accept this." The old man didn't accept it and quickly waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows and said, "I told you to accept it, so accept it. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Are you looking for a beating?" Hearing this, Princess Huofeng and the others were speechless. Even the gifts they gave were so overbearing. The old man glanced at Qin Feiyong and the madman. Seeing their kind smiles, he nodded and said, "Thank you, Lord Wolf King. This old man will forever remember your kindness today." Saying so, he put away the soul stones and divine crystals and turned to enter the space-time passage. "You can leave too." The white-eyed wolf looked at the guard. Yes. The guard nodded and turned to run for his life. Elder Wang saw everything and said with a hoarse laugh, "The 3 of you respect your elders. This old man admires your righteousness." The white-eyed wolf joked, "Now, do you still say that we are the masked Azura's accomplices?" The woman and the other 3 looked at each other with awkward expressions. Before, they really thought that this group of people was the masked Azura's accomplices. The woman smiled and said, "Since you've come to the heavenly palace, please come in and have a seat so that we can play host to you." The madman said, "That's no problem. But until now, we still don't know who it is." The woman patted her head and said apologetically, "Sorry, I'll introduce you." The woman pointed at the middle-aged man in white and said with a smile, "This is our Sky Palace's Vice Palace Master." The middle-aged man in white smiled gently at Qin Feiyong and the others. The woman pointed at the middle-aged man in black and said, "And this is our Sky Palace's Law Enforcement Palace Master." The young man in black looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and cupped his hands. "I hope you can forgive my previous offense." Qin Feiyong waved his hand. The woman looked at Elder Wang and said with a smile, "This old man is our Sky Palace's Grand Elder." Elder Wang also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "I hope you can forgive my offense." Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He looked at the woman and said, "Senior, you are the Sky Palace's Palace Master?" "Yes." The woman nodded and said, "But I don't dare to call you senior. Your current strength is already above us. Logically speaking, we should be the ones calling you lords. At least you know your place." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The woman in the court dress did not get angry. She stepped aside and said respectfully, "Please." Qin Feiyong and the others were about to take a step forward, but at this moment, a voice full of hostility sounded. "So it's the famous Qin Feiyong, Madman Emo, and Golden Wing Wolf King?" Chapter 3600. This voice. Qin Feiyong and the others narrowed their eyes and turned to look at the source of the voice. Although they had only heard this cold voice once, it left a deep impression on them. It was the masked Azura. The 4 great heads and the people in the Sky Hall all looked in the direction of the voice as their eyes flickered with a cold glint. The masked Azura was no stranger to the entire northern continent, especially those in the Sky Hall. The masked Azura was like a nightmare that haunted them. Once they stepped out of the Sky Hall, they had to be careful at all times because no one knew when the masked Azura would appear behind them. Not far away, in the mountains, a black figure stepped into the sky step by step. His aura carried a ferocious aura, and the skull-shaped mask on his face was particularly eye-catching. "It's indeed you arrogant bastard. How dare you barge into my myriad peak mountain? Die." The Sky Hall's Law Enforcement Hall Master's eyes surged with killing intent as a terrifying aura covered the sky. However, the masked Azura was not affected by this aura at all. His dark eyes were filled with disgust and indifference as he walked to the void not far from the peak of the mountain. He stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf. "This guy is quite powerful," the white-eyed wolf muttered. "Yes, perfect sovereign realm cultivation. Moreover, he's not afraid of the Sky Hall's overlords at all. To have such confidence, it means that he might have grasped a supreme profundity." The madman's eyes were filled with curiosity. What kind of face was hidden under this mask? Faced with the masked Azura's silent attitude, the law enforcement hall master was furious and shouted, "How arrogant!" Boom! A wave of death law roared out. A dark red light instantly appeared in this world as a waning moon slowly rose. The aura of death enveloped the surroundings. Death law, supreme profundity. Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed. How much hatred did he have for the masked Azura to activate the supreme profundity right from the start? The masked Azura looked at the black-clothed middle-aged man and sneered, "Are you in such a hurry to kill me because you're afraid that I'll expose your evil deeds?" Evil deeds. Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. What did he mean? The four overlords of the Sky Hall were puzzled when they heard him. The law enforcement hall master frowned and said, "What do you mean? Speak clearly." "What do I mean? You don't know?" The masked Azura sneered. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Do you know why I specifically kill the Heavenly Palace's disciples?" The disciples of the Heavenly Hall in the sky were also puzzled because they. But as the ruler of the northern continent, not only did the Sky Hall not deal with him impartially, but they even took him in as a disciple and protected him in the Sky Hall. The masked Azura roared with righteous indignation. He looked at Qin Feiyang, the masked Azura, and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Don't you think they should be condemned for doing such a thing?" "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang and the others looked at the four overlords of the Sky Hall when they heard him. The four of them remained silent. "Nothing to say?" The masked Azura laughed coldly, and then he raised his head to look at the disciples of the Sky Hall and said, "All of you should be aware of this demon, right?" "We know." However, back then, Lord Palace Master personally said that this man had already been executed. All the disciples in the Sky Hall were puzzled. "It seems like you have been deceived by them. This person is not dead. Saying that he has been executed is just a lie to deceive the world. In fact, he is now cultivating in seclusion somewhere in the Sky Hall. Moreover, I know that your temple master has taken him in as a disciple and personally taught him cultivation." The masked Azura roared. "Impossible! Don't slander our temple master," the Sky Hall disciples said angrily. "Slander?" The masked Azura sneered. "I have no enmity with her. Is there a need to slander her?" The madman frowned and looked at the masked Azura. He asked in confusion, "What is going on? Can you be more clear?" The masked Azura took a deep breath and looked at the two people and the wolf. He sighed. Back then, a person called Qin Feng appeared in the northern continent out of thin air. This person's methods were extremely ruthless. He killed millions of people in a day and even wiped out a city with hundreds of thousands of people. What? Not to mention Qin Feiyang, the masked Azura, and the white-eyed wolf. Even Princess Huofeng and the others were shocked. You didn't see the bloody scene. It was simply outrageous. He didn't even let go of newborn babies. The most terrifying thing is that this person not only killed innocent people, but also absorbed their flesh and divine souls, leaving behind white bones. It is said that he can use this method to speed up his growth. The masked Azura said in a deep voice, "What?" Qin Feiyang, the masked Azura, and the white-eyed wolf's eyes shook, absorbing the flesh and divine souls of others. Wasn't this the same method as Li Feng? Qin Feng, Li Feng? Could it be the same person? According to my investigation, in just 2 years, he has killed hundreds of millions of people. In just 2 years, he crazily absorbed the flesh and blood of others and went from the half-step ninth heaven realm to the peak imperishable realm. This world focuses on cultivation. Whether it's humans or other creatures, they all have to cultivate. However, this kind of inhumane cultivation method is the behavior of an animal. The masked Azura roared. his face filled with grief and anger. No way. He went from the half-step ninth heaven realm to the peak imperishable realm in 2 years? Hearing this, even Princess Wolfing and the others were shocked. That was 2 whole realms. Even a monster that didn't appear in 10,000 years would need hundreds of thousands or millions of years. But this person only used 2 years? Was this a joke? The white-eyed wolf asked, Little Chinzi, do you remember the last time you saw Li Feng? What was his cultivation level? I remember that the last time I saw him was outside the forest of gods and demons. Didn't many people die in my hands back then? I heard Schwelling say that Li Feng could enter the 9th heaven realm after absorbing their flesh and blood. This means that before entering the 4th level, his cultivation level should be around the half-step 9th heaven realm. Qin Feiyang guessed. The Madzi said in surprise, So this Qin Feng might be Li Feng? That shouldn't be. Didn't we ask the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to investigate Li Feng's whereabouts? If it's really Li Feng, it's impossible for the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to not have any information. Qin Feiyang frowned. The Madzi said, Then what if he changed his appearance? After all, he changed his name. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly as he turned to the Master Jura and asked, Do you know what this Qin Feng looks like? I do. The Master Jura nodded. With a wave of his hand, a phantom condensed. It was a silver-haired youth with an ordinary appearance. Not Li Feng? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows, but we can't be sure that he's not Li Feng. After all, we said before that he might have changed his appearance. We have to see him in person to be sure. The Madzi said. Then what if it's really Li Feng? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. Towards Li Feng, he had a very complicated feeling in his heart, because the Li Feng in the past was very pure and kind. But after the dragons slaughtered the Cloud Mountain village, seeing his family fall one by one in front of him, coupled with the temptation of the blood ancestor, he gradually turned into a demon king. But if this Qin Feng was really Li Feng, then he had slaughtered hundreds of millions of lives in the northern continent. Such a sin. If Qin Feiyang sat by and did nothing, his conscience would be condemned. Originally, the masked Azura spoke again. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked up. When I heard that Qin Feng had been executed, I also thought it was true, but not long after, I suddenly found out that Qin Feng didn't die at all. Not only did he not die, he was even accepted as a disciple by the Sky Palace Master and was secretly protected. This kind of heinous criminal, even a person with a little bit of conscience, can't let him get away scot-free. However, the Sky Palace has the 4 giants and the sovereign divine weapon. I can't kill my way into the Sky Palace, so I can only kill the disciples of the Sky Palace outside. But the disciples of the Sky Palace who died in my hands all deserve to die. They bullied people outside and committed all kinds of crimes. I can't bear to see them like that. So, although my hands are stained with blood, I have never killed a good person. Originally, I planned to continue like this and slowly find a chance to kill Qin Feng. But just a while ago, I saw you in Fengyuan City. Although you looked very ordinary on the surface, you dared to openly kill the city lord and others in Fengyuan City. I think your identities should not be simple. So, I have been secretly following you. As expected, you are Qin Feiyang, Madman Emo, and Golden Wings Wolf King. When I saw that it was you, I saw hope. So I took the initiative to come out and tell you everything. Because you have the ability to seek justice for those innocent lives that died tragically, the Master Jura said. Qin Feiyang, Madman Emo, and the white-eyed wolf heard this and were moved. Although this man was known as a Jura, everything he did was for the sake of justice. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Thank you for your trust in us. We will investigate this matter clearly. I believe in you. That's all I have to say. We will meet again if fate allows. The Master Jura cupped his hands and smiled, then turned around and left without looking back. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the black-clothed middle-aged man. He was about to chase after him, but Madman took a step forward and stopped the black-clothed middle-aged man. He frowned and said, He did not do anything wrong. What qualifications do you have to chase after him? Chapter 3601.
But the black-clothed man raised his eyebrows.
But what? Could it be that he exposed you guys in front of everyone and made you guys angry? The madman sneered as he glanced at the 4 leaders of the Sky Palace. When the 4 magnates heard this, they could not help but lower their heads, showing a guilty conscience. I really didn't expect the Sky Palace to do such a thing. Let's go. Bring us to see this Qinfeng. I want to see how capable he is to make the 4 of you willing to risk universal condemnation to protect him. The madman sneered. This Qinfeng might be Li Feng, so he naturally had to investigate. Actually, we also cherish talents. Although he did commit heinous crimes in the past, he has turned over a new leaf. The woman in palace attire sighed. Since they had been exposed, there was no need to hide it anymore. As soon as this was said, the disciples of the Sky Palace above were in an uproar. What the Master Jura said was actually true. Was this how the palace master and the others dealt with evil people? It was too disappointing. Even if we cherish talents, we can't go against the entire world. Lead the way. Qin Feiyang sighed. If it was really Li Feng, he could only kill him to get rid of evil for the people. Because this was no longer a small sin, but a heinous sin. Back in the Nether King's hell, he had already given Li Feng a chance. He didn't expect that not only did Li Feng not listen, he even became worse. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. Under the lead of the 4 leaders, Qin Feiyang and the others stepped into the Sky Palace. The magnificent palace was like a small island floating in the clouds. At a glance, it was as if the ancient Sky Palace had reappeared in the world, filled with an ethereal aura. The gazes of all the disciples in the Sky Hall gathered on Qin Feiyang's group. Their eyes were filled with admiration. After a while, the group arrived in the sky above a palace. This palace was relatively old, and there wasn't a single person around. It was extremely quiet. Moreover, with the cultivation of Qin Feiyang and the others, they could see that there was a time array around the palace. He's in the palace. The woman hesitated for a moment before sighing. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf took a step forward and rushed toward the main hall. However, before he could get close, a barrier appeared in front of the white-eyed wolf. White-eyed wolf was surprised. This was a barrier condensed from the power of laws, and it was filled with boundless vitality. Qin Feiyang and Madman also looked at the barrier suspiciously. Suddenly, their gazes trembled. This was the law of life. Because the mermaid princess also grasped the law of life, it was easy for her to tell. The law of life, in other words, one of the 4 overlords of the Sky Hall had mastered the law of life. Who laid this? The white-eyed wolf quivered and turned to look at the 4 leaders. Not long ago, it had been discussing with Qin Feiyang that the last law would be the law of life. It hadn't expected to encounter it so soon. It's me. The woman in palace attire spoke. With a wave of her hand, the barrier dissipated. The white-eyed wolf stared at the woman in palace attire, and his eyes emitted a green light. This gaze made the woman in palace attire panic. What did this wolf cub want to do? Suddenly, the aura of the law of life emerged from the main hall. Qin Feiyang, Madman, and the white-eyed wolf regained their senses and looked at the main hall in surprise. This is the aura of the law of space-time. Quickly go in. He might be trying to escape. Madman shouted. The white-eyed wolf rushed to the front of the main hall and smashed the door with one claw. Inside the main hall, there was a space-time passage. The back of a silver-haired young man had already stepped into the space-time passage and was about to disappear. Stop! The white-eyed wolf shouted. However, the silver-haired young man turned a deaf ear and didn't turn back. Still want to run? The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed coldly. He activated instant time and instantly rushed into the passage. Quickly follow. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. He didn't expect Qin Feng to have mastered the law of space-time. However, when he and Madman rushed to the space-time passage, the passage collapsed. He ran without seeing us. What is he afraid of? Madman frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang. Could he really be Li Feng? Could it be that the young man's purpose in the northern continent is actually Li Feng? Qin Feiyong remained silent. The four leaders of the Sky Palace looked at each other. Who was Li Feng? Suddenly, Qin Feiyong looked at the four leaders and asked, where could he have gone? The four of them shook their heads. Is there anyone else with him?
Qin Feiyong asked again.
No, it's just him. The woman in palace attire said. Just him? Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. If it was really Li Feng, then where was the remnant soul of the blood progenitor? Li Feng and Blood Spirit had always been together. Since Li Feng was in the northern continent, Blood Spirit should also be in the northern continent. Will the white-eyed wolf be in danger? Princess Huafeng asked. He shouldn't be. After all, he has mastered the supreme profundity of the 5 supreme laws. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at his sister meaningfully, then turned to the four leaders and asked, what's Qin Feng's cultivation level? Greater Mastery Ruler. The woman in palace attire replied, just a Greater Mastery Ruler. He's definitely not a match for the wolf cub. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Princess Huafeng and chuckled. His sister, who had always been arrogant, was actually worried about the white-eyed wolf? It was really strange. White Continent. At the edge of the northwest, there was an endless glacier here. Snow was falling from the sky, and the cold wind was blowing. It was cold to the bone. This place. It was one of the 4 forbidden areas, the Death Glacier. Buzz. Accompanied by a buzzing sound, a space-time passage appeared above the entrance. A silver-haired young man rushed out like lightning and entered the Death Glacier without looking back. When he entered the Death Glacier, he raised his hand and waved it. A surge of divine power surged out and blasted at the space-time passage behind him. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf appeared. Although it was blasted by the divine power, it was not injured at all. After all, its current physical body had already reached the supreme level. However, the space-time passage behind it collapsed on the spot. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws, and the fluctuations that filled the void dissipated. It scanned the front and immediately saw the silver-haired young man who had entered the Death Glacier. This seems to be the Death Glacier? You're really bold. The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. It activated Instant of Light and directly entered the Death Glacier. Its speed was not something that the silver-haired young man could compare to. In just a few blinks of an eye, the white-eyed wolf was in front of the silver-haired young man. It turned to look at the silver-haired young man. It was a young man in his 20s with an ordinary appearance. He did not resemble Li Feng at all. The silver-haired young man also stopped in the void and said in a deep voice, "Why are you chasing me? I should be the one asking you this question. You haven't even seen us and you've already run away. I really want to know what you're afraid of." The white-eyed wolf sneered. The silver-haired young man said calmly, "I didn't run away because I have something to do in the Death Glacier. So, this is a coincidence?" The white-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly. "It is a coincidence. If there's nothing else, don't stop me." After saying that, the silver-haired young man bypassed the white-eyed wolf and continued to fly deeper. Looking at the silver-haired young man's back, the white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered. Suddenly, it waved its claws and the space-time laws rolled out. The void within a radius of several million miles immediately collapsed and turned into a giant ice crystal sword. It slashed at the silver-haired young man with the power to destroy the world. Ultimate profundity. The silver-haired young man was shocked. He stood in the void for a while and suddenly turned to look at the white-eyed wolf and said angrily, "Don't force me." "So what if I force you?" The white-eyed wolf sneered. Hearing this, the silver-haired young man's eyes suddenly emitted a blood-red light. It was as if he had turned into another person in an instant. The evil aura around him roared in all directions. This aura, this gaze. The white-eyed wolf's eyes trembled and said angrily, "So it's you, you little bastard. I've been so low-key. Why do you still want to find me?" The silver-haired young man roared and a shocking murderous aura rushed out of his body. The sky suddenly turned into a sea of blood. Bolts of blood-red lightning roared in the clouds like blood pythons, emitting an aura that could destroy the world. What a powerful fluctuation. Isn't that the golden-winged wolf king? It's really him. Why did he come to the Death Glacier? Who is that silver-haired young man opposite him? He has mastered the ultimate profundity of the law of slaughter. Wait, he looks a little familiar. I remember now. He's Qin Feng, the great demon who slaughtered countless creatures in the early years. Isn't he dead? Why is he still alive? The fluctuations from the battle between the white-eyed wolf and Li Feng alarmed the creatures in the surroundings. They all looked over with eyes full of shock. The entrance here was in the northern continent, so the people who came here to train were basically from the northern continent. Therefore, they all recognized Li Feng. Ultimate profundity. The white-eyed wolf raised his head and looked at the rolling blood-red lightning in the sky. He was also extremely shocked. This kid has already comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of slaughter? That's too fast. Although Qin Feiyang had given him some pills to open the door of potential, his comprehension and potential shouldn't be so terrifying. One had to know. Right now, Li Feng's cultivation was only at the sovereign stage. Crack. Rumble. Bolts of blood-red lightning poured down like a waterfall. Heaven and earth trembled as a terrifying murderous aura enveloped the surroundings. Do you think your wings have hardened just because you comprehended the ultimate profundity? The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. The ice crystal sword formed by the void fragment furiously slashed out, annihilating the blood-red lightning that filled the sky on the spot. Li Feng spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated repeatedly. This brother knows that little Qinzi can't bear to kill you. Otherwise, you would have already died in the Nether King's hell. So, while little Qinzi isn't here, this brother will directly eliminate you to prevent you from harming the Sky Cloud realm. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The ice crystal sword carried a sharpness that could tear the heavens and earth apart as it slashed towards Li Feng. A trace of fear suddenly appeared in Li Feng's eyes. He hysterically roared, "When I first came to the Sky Cloud realm, I did indeed slaughter many creatures. However, ever since I stepped into the sovereign stage, I have not harmed a single person. Why won't you let me go? Moreover, do you really think I want to do this? If there were other shortcuts, I wouldn't have harmed those innocent creatures. I just want to become stronger and find Long Zun's family to avenge the villagers of Cloud Mountain Village. Am I wrong?" Li Feng roared again and again. Although so many years had passed, the hatred in his heart had not decreased. Instead, it had become even more intense. The white-eyed wolf waved its paw, and the ice crystal sword stopped above Li Feng's head. It looked at the ferocious Li Feng opposite it with its brows tightly knitted together. Chapter 3602. Why are you looking at me like that? Did I say anything wrong? Li Feng glared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf took a deep breath and sighed. You're not wrong. No matter who it is in this world, everything they do is to become stronger. However, there are other ways to become stronger. It's not the only way to kill the innocent, but this is a shortcut. You know my talent. Even if Qin Dage helps me open the door to my potential, I can't surpass Long Zun, let alone surpass Long Chun. I have to do this, Li Feng said. You know Long Chun too? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. Of course I know. Although you don't know where I am all these years, I've been paying attention to your situation all the time, because in the Sky Cloud realm, you are my only family. No, you are my only family in this world. Therefore, I know clearly about the battle between Qin Dage, the first prince of the dragons, and the fire dragon on White Crane Island. Li Feng said. Only family, the white-eyed wolf murmured. No matter how much Li Feng changed, his feelings for them had never changed. He still respected them, loved them, and regarded them as family. Brother Wolf, I know that I've sinned deeply and it'll be difficult to wash away my sins. Don't worry, after I kill the dragons and avenge my family in Cloud Village, I'll atone for my sins with my death. Li Feng clenched his fists. Why do you have to do this? Hatred has completely blinded your heart. Moreover, the people who slaughtered Cloud Village have already been executed. The dragons of the ancient realm have also been wiped out. You should be relieved. Now let go of everything and come back with me. As long as you sincerely repent, I believe that whether it's little Qin Zi or little lunatic, they will forgive you, protect you, and take care of you. After all, little Qin Zi has always regarded you as a younger brother. The white-eyed wolf sighed. Li Feng fell silent. He shook his head and said, I failed to live up to Big Brother Qin's trust and expectations. I don't deserve to be his younger brother, and I don't have the face to see him. Otherwise, I would have already gone to find Big Brother Qin when you all appeared in the Sky Cloud realm. Let's talk about it later. The real culprit behind the massacre of Cloud Village is Long Zun, because she created an unfair system in the ancient Sky Cloud Village. It's also because of her lack of discipline that the people of the dragon race became so arrogant and domineering, treating human lives like grass. She must pay the price for this. Brother Wolf, I beg you, please let me go. I promise you, from now on, I will never kill an innocent life. Li Feng knelt down in the air with a plop. He looked at the ingrate with a pleading expression. The ingrate lowered his head and looked at Li Feng in silence. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws and shattered the ice crystal sword. Thank you, Brother Wolf. Li Feng was very grateful. Remember what you said today. You can't kill innocent people. If I find out that you don't do it, I'll kill you myself. In other words, this is your last chance. The white-eyed wolf said, I know. I'll do it. Thank you, Brother Wolf. Also, say sorry to Qin Dage for me. Li Feng stood up and turned to leave. Wait, the white-eyed wolf suddenly said. Li Feng stopped and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf in confusion. When little Qin Zi gave you the pill to open the door of potential, your cultivation wasn't enough to open the other pages of the pill mantra. So, you haven't opened all the doors of potential yet. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw and several pills appeared. They were the pills to open the doors of potential in the monarch, paragon, ninth heaven, imperishable and sovereign realms. Li Feng looked at the white-eyed wolf in astonishment. Not only did it not kill him, but it also gave him the remaining pills. When I helped Princess Wolfing and the others open the doors of potential, I took some pills. I was going to give them to the brewers. Since I met you today, I'll help you to the end. Take them. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw, and the pills flew to Li Feng. Li Feng looked at the pills and suddenly knelt down in the void. He kowtowed 3 times and said solemnly, Thank you, Brother Wolf. I promise you again that I won't do anything evil in the future. Go. The white-eyed wolf smiled. At this moment, it was like a kind elder. Li Feng stood up and put away the pills. He turned and disappeared without looking back. Sigh. The white-eyed wolf sighed. It was supposed to kill Li Feng, but it gave him the pills to open the doors of potential. How could it explain this to little Qin Zi? When did it become so kind and benevolent? A moment later, at the top of an ice mountain in the depths, Li Feng landed on the top of the mountain and looked back at the entrance. After a long silence, he took out a face-restoring pill and put it in his mouth. Soon, his face was restored. Whoosh! Right at this moment, an old man in blood-red clothes appeared. His face was quite old and his clothes were unknown. Even his hair and eyes were blood-red. He was exuding a shocking bloody aura. So this is why you didn't let me do it. It seems that you're sure that the white-eyed wolf won't kill you and will even give you the pills to open the doors of potential. The old man in blood-red clothes looked at Li Feng and laughed. Is that what you think? Li Feng whispered without looking at the old man. Otherwise? The old man in blood-red clothes laughed. Li Feng suddenly looked up and stared at the old man in blood-red clothes. His blood-red eyes were like those of a demon king. He grabbed the old man's clothes and roared, I didn't let you do it because I really don't want you to hurt it. Because I'm not lying. They are my only family in this world. Is that so? The old man in blood-red clothes was indifferent. Let me tell you, although you've made me successful, you've also brought me a body of sin. I can't forgive you for everything else, but if you dare to hurt Qin Dage and the others, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Li Feng's eyes were filled with a ferocious light. He was like a beast that bared its fangs. The old man's pupils shrunk slightly. It seemed that he had guessed wrong. This kid had an inseparable feeling for Qin Feiyang and the others. Li Feng slowly let go of the old man in blood-red clothes. He looked up at the depths of the glacier forest and said indifferently, "You said that you'll tell me your true identity and your purpose after I break through to the sovereign realm, right?" "Yes." The old man in blood-red clothes nodded. "Then you better not go back on your words." A cold light flashed in Li Feng's eyes. He soared into the sky and disappeared into the depths of the glacier forest. Sky Palace. Along with the appearance of a space-time passage, the white-eyed wolf returned and landed beside Qin Feiyang and Madman. "How was it?" Madman hurriedly asked. "It's Li Feng." The white-eyed wolf nodded. "It's really him." Madman's expression froze. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, "Then where is he? Could it be that you can't stop him with your strength?" Cough, cough. The white-eyed wolf dryly coughed and said with an embarrassed smile, This big brother was careless and let him slip away." Madman and Qin Feiyang both looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. In any case, his current strength can't be underestimated. Not only did he comprehend the space-time law, but he also comprehended the ultimate profundity of the slaughter law. The white-eyed wolf waved his paws and turned his head to look elsewhere to hide the guilt on his face. The ultimate profundity of the slaughter law? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. This was a bit unexpected. However, even if he comprehended the ultimate profundity of the slaughter law, it was impossible for him to slip away from the white-eyed wolf. After all, the white-eyed wolf had comprehended the ultimate profundity of the 5 strongest laws. At the same time, the woman and the others couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief in their hearts. Princess Huofeng asked, "Then where did he escape to?" "This is our business. What does it have to do with you? Don't talk too much." The white-eyed wolf immediately became angry. Princess Huofeng clenched her fists when she heard this. She gnashed her teeth and glared at the ingrate. The white-eyed wolf directly ignored her and looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman, saying, "Let's get down to business." It was obvious that he was trying to change the topic. Qin Feiyang took a deep look at the white-eyed wolf and looked around. He noticed that there were many Heavenly Palace disciples nearby. He then looked at the woman and the others and transmitted his voice. "There are too many spies now. It's not convenient for us to talk. Come to see Lion Island to look for us later." After that, Qin Feiyang gave the 4 of them a set of coordinates and had the white-eyed wolf open the space-time tunnel. He then left without looking back. They left just like that? It seems like they are not here to cause trouble for the Heavenly Palace. They are here for that Qin Feng. Speaking of which, this Qin Feng actually alarmed Qin Feiyang and the others. I don't think he will have a good ending in the future. That said, these people truly abhor evil. For a Qin Feng, they didn't hesitate to travel thousands of miles to our northern continent. The Heavenly Palace disciples immediately started discussing softly. 3 Palace Masters, Elder Wang. Don't you think you owe us an explanation? After the space-time tunnel dissipated, a group of upper echelons rushed to the 4 heads and frowned. Even they didn't know that Li Feng was hiding in the Heavenly Palace. The middle-aged man in black said angrily, "We have our reasons for doing this. Do we still need to explain to you? If it was an ordinary person, it wouldn't matter. But this Qin Feng is a demon who kills people like scything flax. If you don't explain clearly, how will the disciples below talk about you?" This isn't the main point. The main point is, once this matter spreads out, how will the people of the northern continent talk about you behind your backs? The group of upper echelons was burning with anxiety. The heads were all smart people. How could they make such a fatal mistake now? The woman in palace attire was silent for a while. Looking at the group of upper echelons, she sighed and said, "You can help to deal with this matter. If it really doesn't work, you can use our name to apologize to the people of the northern continent and admit your mistake." "Palace Master, is there a need to apologize and admit our mistake?" The middle-aged man in black frowned. "After all, we were in the wrong first. We covered up a murderous demon. Of course, we have to take the attitude of admitting our mistake. I'm a little tired. I'll go back and rest first." After saying that, the woman in palace attire turned and left without looking back. Elder Wang, the middle-aged man in black, and the middle-aged man in white looked at each other and left as well. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.